Chapter 317. Northeast China, Daxing, Anling, deep in the forest. The cold wind was howling, snow was falling, and the world was covered in white. Tang Linglong, Cheng Tian Tian, Tyrannosaurus, Fox, and many other dragon warriors were wearing white combat uniforms, hiding in the dense forest like hunters waiting for their prey to appear. They stared vigilantly at the quiet borderline. Linglong, well done. Those 3 B-class Arcanists were easily killed by you, Fox said in a low voice with a look of admiration. Tang Linglong acted as if she didn't hear him. She used the binoculars to observe the possible hiding spots of the enemies in the distance and mumbled, "I thought I could catch up with him as long as I focused on my cultivation. My power is already comparable to that of a transcendent master, but he has already dominated Southeast Asia and reached another level. The gap between us is getting bigger and bigger." Next to her, Cheng Tian Tian heard her and sighed emotionally. She did not know how to comfort and persuade her. She understood Tang Linglong's complicated feelings for Jiang Tian, but the word love had caused many heroes in the past and present to fall deeply in love, unable to extricate themselves. Moreover, Tang Linglong was only a little girl. Hopefully, she would not become another Hua Qiangu. But soon, Tang Linglong pulled herself together. He has killed Wang Chongyan and trampled all of Southeast Asia under his feet. As his disciple, I can't embarrass him. Just as Cheng Tian Tian was secretly relieved, Tang Linglong suddenly stood up, pulled out a military knife, and said in a deep voice, "More Arcanists have appeared. Let's go and trample them to death." In an instant, she burst out like an arrow, rolling up snow and pouncing on a few small black dots in the distance. "Captain! Kill!" For a moment, many warriors rushed out, their blood boiling. Not only Huaxia but in fact the powerful people around the world, especially in Singapore and Southeast Asia, were deeply shocked. When he just received the news, the Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Hsien Loong, slammed the table in exasperation and shouted, "This Kong Taechu is too lawless. How dare he invade the Gua family manor and kill our police? Does he think this is Huaxia? Singapore is a country ruled by law. Send out the bombers and fighter jets." The Prime Minister is right. Mr. Wang Zhongyan is our star continent's state preceptor and guardian angel. He killed him just like that? This is too much. A mere country bumpkin from the mainland dares to run amok in Singapore? You're courting death. I think that this series of events should be categorized as a first-class terrorist activity. We should use thunderous and bloody methods to suppress it. Otherwise, how can Singapore be a nation? How can the people of Singapore call themselves home? The surrounding cabinet ministers also agreed and offered suggestions. They were all exasperated and filled with righteous indignation, as if Jiang Tian had dug up their ancestral graves. However, Deputy Director Lee of the police station quickly stopped him and said, "Mr. Prime Minister, everyone, please be careful. Kong Taechu is not an ordinary person. He is a very powerful martial artist." "So what if you're a martial artist? I don't believe that Kong Taechu can withstand the firepower of our modern army," Lee Hsien Loong said unhappily. Martial artists were indeed powerful, but only immortal state warriors could withstand the might of a modern army. Even immortal state warriors had gone into hiding after the rise of nuclear weapons, laser weapons, and other modern weapons. They no longer dared to come out and do evil. Kong Taechu is not an ordinary martial artist. He is known as the #1 Grandmaster on the divine role of Huaxia. Director Lee thought back to the day when Jiang Tian chopped down the helicopter at the Gua family's mansion. He was so scared that his soul almost jumped out of his body. He said earnestly, "Moreover, he has connections with the military of Huaxia. He was once the martial arts consultant of Huaxia's War Dragon and a recipient of the National Hero Medal. Their Ministry of Foreign Affairs has already contacted us." "Is that so?" Lee Hsien Loong's face darkened. If Jiang Tian was just an ordinary martial artist, he would have been killed. However, if he was working with the military of a superpower like Huaxia, then they would have to be careful. Especially since the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had contacted the Singapore police, it was intriguing. It showed that the Huaxia government valued this man greatly. Premierly, Are we just going to let Kong Tae-chu off the hook for killing my family members? More importantly, he has killed a lot of police officers. He has no regard for the Singapore government. Guo Huntao, the fifth son of the Guo family and the father of Guo Changxing, said angrily, I request to lead the police to arrest Jiang Taichu to show the world the severity of our Singapore government and police's laws. He was also a big shot in the Singapore police force and had great influence in Singapore. Seeing his father, son, and brother killed and the Guo family defeated, he couldn't take it lying down. Kong Tae-chu is a cultivator of both Dharma spells and martial arts. He can kill people from 100 miles away. He even killed Wang Chongyan. How can ordinary police officers be his match? Guo Huntao, don't be rash. You will not only hurt yourself, but also premierly. At the side, an aged yellow-robed old monk spoke with a benevolent countenance, twirling his Buddhist beads as he advised. He was known as the Red Boat Venerable Master and was the state preceptor of Singapore in the 1990s and early 2000s. He was on good terms with Li Xianlong's father, Li Guangyao, and protected Singapore for 20 years. It was only when he lost to Wang Chongyan in a battle 10 years ago that he gave up the position of state preceptor. He is just bluffing. Even Wang Chongyan can't kill people from 100 miles away. Guo Huntao said defiantly, Ah! While he was talking, he suddenly let out a shrill scream. His face twisted in pain and his limbs twitched. Li Xianlong and Director Li were still in shock when they saw Guo Huntao's chest glowing red. His heart expanded like a red lotus. The red light could even penetrate his skin and bones. Even his beating heart could be seen clearly. Suddenly, in the midst of the heart-wrenching scream, bang! Guo Huntao's heart shattered and half of his chest exploded. Blood, broken bones and internal organs splattered all over Li Xianlong's face. The blood-curdling screams came to an abrupt end as Guo Huntao fell to the ground with a loud thud. His body smashed into the ground, leaving behind a glaring scarlet trail. A bloody shadow spread out from his chest and formed a strange resonance. A voice came out. This is killing people from 100 miles away. Unfortunately, you don't even know how you died. The entire place was dead silent. Not a single sound could be heard. Many senior officials of Singapore kept quiet out of fear. Only Director Li said in horror, This is Kong Tae-chu's voice. Even Li Xianlong's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. He was deeply frightened and a bead of sweat appeared on his forehead. His mansion and office were protected by fully armed and brave bodyguards, bulletproof cars, and private planes for long-distance travel. However, Jiang Taichu was able to kill people from 100 miles away with a thought, which made him feel that it was impossible to guard against him and was extremely difficult to deal with. Are we still going to attack Kong Tae-chu? After a long while, a hoarse voice asked. No one brought up this topic. The spacious meeting room was dead silent. Even Li Xianlong kept his mouth shut. Everyone looked at each other. No one dared to bring up this topic again. Sigh, I'm afraid Master Kong has already seen the truth of the immortal state. He can speak the truth. His words are the law. Venerable Red Boat was stunned for a long time. He then sighed with admiration. Premierly, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. There are opportunities in danger. Why don't we invite Master Kong to be the Grand Preceptor of Singapore? Master, will he accept it? I don't dare to face him. Li Xianlong's face turned even paler. He pondered for a moment and said with a hoarse voice, Where there's a will, there's a way. This old man is willing to accompany premierly. Let's talk about it with emotion. Venerable Red Boat said with his hands clasped together. When the incident at the premier's residence happened, Jiang Tian was already at the Singapore Chinese Society's main hall on Swirling Island. He had begun to loot and clean up the mess. At the same time, Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshi, and other calligraphy experts from the southern faction had already arrived at Swirling Island. The Hilton sisters had also brought along their helpers to help. First, he ordered all the members of the Singapore Chinese Society's consecrators, elders, guards, disciples of the Wang family, servants, and womenfolk to gather in the middle of the courtyard. Anyone who disobeyed would be killed on the spot. Following that, boxes of Dharma treasures were moved out. The Singapore Chinese Society had been established in the Republic of China. It had a few decades of history and had plundered without restraint. Its wealth was simply dazzling. Jewels, jade, antiques, paintings, gold and silver had been reduced to mere decorations. Jiang Tian did not care about these things. He was more interested in spirit herbs, array formation materials, and cultivation resources. Wang Chongyan is indeed the retired emperor of Singapore. He has not plundered the people's wealth all these years. Jiang Tian grabbed a few pieces of chalcedony and laughed heartily. Chalcedony was the best quality jade. It was much more precious than the imperial glass jade. The Yamaguchi-gumis in Aguakai had hunted down the Chung family for a few years just for 4 pieces of chalcedony. However, there were at least a few dozen pieces of chalcedony. There are even a few rosemary seeds. Rosemary flowers emit the most natural and mesmerizing fragrance. Even the best perfume in the world pales in comparison. Jiang Tian found a few more spirit herb seeds stored in a jade bottle. He laughed heartily. If I can make them, I will give them to Qing'er's mother. They will love them. After going through the materials, Jiang Tian distributed some of the materials to the various helpers in the Lingnan spell circle. The group of people were all very grateful. After that, Jiang Tian picked out a few useful items and put them in his storage ring. He looked at Paris and said, "Paris, do you have a private jet?" "I have a Gulfstream G650 private jet and a private airport." Paris winked at Jiang Tian and smiled seductively. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, "All right, the rest will be sent to Huaxia. Don't leave anything behind." Below him, Brahma prostrated himself on the ground and shivered as he said with a trembling voice, "Grandmaster Jiang, these aren't all the artifacts. That old bastard Wang Chongyan still has a secret treasure vault. I'll take you there right now. Kong Teichu, you have gone too far. I will fight you to the death. Fantian, how dare you betray master? I will not let you go." Among the people kneeling on the ground, an old man suddenly stood up, straightened his neck, stomped his feet and cursed angrily. Chapter 318. He was Wang Tiexin, the son of Wang Chongyan. He was also an ethereal enlightenment sorcerer and was quite famous in Singapore. At this moment, when he saw his father's murderer, Jiang Tian, take all the treasures, he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. "I wanted to let the Wang family go. After all, my fight with Wang Chongyan had nothing to do with you." Jiang Tian smirked and said, "But your scream reminded me that you have a deep grudge against me. Let's kill all of you." "What? You dare to kill my entire family? Are you still human? You are a devil." Wang Tiexin was shocked. "Ha, a devil? How do you know about my life?" Jiang Tian sneered and reached out with his right hand. He grabbed a cloud of blood mist from Wang Tiexin's body. Then, he condensed the blood into an incantation. Bloodline curse. The blood-colored talisman immediately shot out dense threads that connected to the many Wang family disciples. In the end, it actually intertwined into a spiderweb. "Go to hell!" Jiang Tian shouted. Kaboom! Kaboom! Muffled sounds rang out again and again. Many Wang family disciples caught on fire and were burned to ashes. Even the disciples of the Wang family, who were tens of miles away in the distant star continent, were not spared. This is the bloodline curse. Once you have a person's bloodline, you can trace it back to its source and kill everyone related to it. The sect leader of the blood witch sect quickly knelt on the ground and trembled. He didn't even dare to look at Jiang Tian. Compared to Jiang Tian's invincible spells, the spells of the blood shaman cult were like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division when they met calculus. They could be said to be extremely shallow and not worth mentioning. "We surrender. Grandmaster Jiang, please spare our lowly lives. We will definitely be loyal and devoted to you, even if we have to die 10,000 deaths." Many of the Nanyang sorcery experts submitted and kowtowed to show their loyalty. They were so scared that they pissed their pants. Most of them had joined the Chinese Society of Singapore as consecrators and treated Wang Chongyan as equals. Now that Jiang Tian was in control, they had no such qualifications. In their eyes, Kang Taechu was even more terrifying than Wang Chongyan. They could only be slaves. When he sensed that there were 3 blood relatives of the Wang family that had died in China, Jiang Tian nodded his head in satisfaction. At this point, all of Wang Zhongyan's blood relatives within 5 generations had died. Cutting the weeds and eliminating the roots to prevent future troubles was the ruthless method of the Taichu celestial venerate back then. He looked at Brahma and said, "Brahma, you are a smart person. I will spare your life. Take me to the treasure room." "Grandmaster Jiang, this way please." Brahma Heaven had a servile appearance as he led the way in front. Not long after, they arrived in front of a tropical stone-thatched cottage. Brahma said worriedly, "Master Kang, the treasure room is underground. However, it is sealed by a stone door and filled with formations and traps. It is very dangerous." Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and saw that there were formations and traps. There were water dungeons, wall arrows, cages, pits, needles. There were large formations and a few small defensive formations. Under the protection of these formations and traps, even a martial arts master with transcendent stage internal force would find it difficult to break in, let alone an ordinary person. However, to Jiang Tian, these were not even worth mentioning. They were not a threat at all. Jiang Tian took out the black flying sword and slashed down. A black light slashed down like the Milky Way. Kaboom! With a bang, it sounded like a grenade had exploded. The thatched cottage collapsed, and basketball-sized rocks flew in all directions. After the black sword chi destroyed the thatched cottage, it didn't slow down at all. It directly cut a large hole in the stone door, revealing an endless passageway. Jiang Tian strode in as if he was entering his own backyard. He was unimpeded all the way. Is this the legendary "one force breaks all"? Brahma was horrified and quickly followed. In the past, everyone regarded this treasure room as a forbidden area and said how powerful the formations were. However, Jiang Tian only needed one sword strike to completely destroy the formation. That was too powerful and domineering. This is the treasure room of that old man Wang Chongyan. Soon the two reached the bottom of the cave. Brahma introduced excitedly. This was a dark room with a diameter of 20 square meters. The stone walls were inlaid with luminous pearls. These things could be sold for millions outside, but Jiang Tian did not even look at them. Jiang Tian's gaze fell on the ancient shelves filled with boxes. There were all kinds of magic weapons and spiritual herbs hidden in them. These are the treasures that old thief Wang Chongyan wantonly plundered. There are dozens of 100-year-old great herbs. Brahma took out the boxes one by one and opened them to show Jiang Tian. He excitedly introduced them. In addition, there are some compasses, ghost-attracting streamers, jade talismans, and other magic weapons. Many of them were used by the ancient spiritual masters. They have a long history and contain powerful magic power. There are also some materials. In Brahma's view, these were just some spiritual herbs, great herbs, and magic weapons. However, in Jiang Tian's view, these were no less than a treasure room full of cultivation materials. A treasure room full of unlimited possibilities. Many of the herbs and magic weapon materials that he did not know how to use on Earth were of great use to Jiang Tian. Black wind fruit contains wind attribute energy. 300 years old, can change the density of the air. Its juice can be used to refine wind attribute talismans, such as the 1,000 Miles Godly Traversal Talisman. Sunflower water vine contains sunflower water energy. 500 years old, can be used to refine the water spirit pill, which can awaken the water spirit body. Vitality tree sap, 1,000 years old, contains powerful vitality and energy. It can be used to refine the real energy cultivation pill, which can quickly restore one's vitality. It can even help a cultivator break through. Heaven Thunder Bamboo, 5,000 years old. I'm afraid it's a relic from prehistoric times. This is amazing and famous in the cultivation world. It can be used to refine lightning attribute flying swords and magic weapons. Jiang Tian recognized the herbs and magic weapon materials one by one. The smile on his face grew wider and wider. He could barely suppress his carefree smile. It could be said that the Singapore Hua Xia Society's foundation was too deep. Wang Zhongyan, with the might of the Blue Cloth Society, had been plundering heaven and earth treasures since the Republic of China. Back then, he had turned the entire Hua Xia upside down. After establishing the Singapore Hua Xia Society, he used his status as the Emperor of Singapore to command many tycoons and disciples in Southeast Asia. After spending decades of hard work, he had also turned Southeast Asia upside down. Many materials, resources, and great herbs could be said to be as vast and boundless as the sea. This kind of deep foundation was not something that Jiang Tian and the rest could compare to in a short period of time. This trip was really worth it. Jiang Tian sighed. He felt that taking the initiative to attack this time was the right choice. Not only was there no future trouble, but the harvest was also too rich. Jiang Tian was now full of pride, as if he had become a nouveau riche. This was a feeling that he had not felt when he defeated the three major families of Jinling and turned the Medicine King Group into a company with a market value of hundreds of billions. After all, tens of billions of assets were too easy for a cultivator or even a transcendent master to obtain. However, these heaven and earth treasures were too rare and priceless. They were too hard to come by. Jiang Tian even found some eggs of the gold-devouring beetle. If these eggs were cultivated, they would be a huge cheat. They could devour all kinds of metals. Any metal-type magical weapon or weapon would be destroyed in minutes. Unfortunately, these eggs had been incubated for too long and had not been successfully hatched. Their vitality had been cut off and they had lost their vitality. What is this? Just as Jiang Tian was about to ask Brahma to move all the treasures onto the plane and transport them to Huaxia on a special plane, suddenly, his divine sense inadvertently swept over a glittering egg-sized stone. This stone contained an extremely powerful and sharp qi of Gingjin. Master Kong, are you talking about this stone? Oh, this stone is very strange. 20 years ago, I found it from a 1,000-year-old tree on Saw Island, which was a deserted island. Lord Brahma explained, that tree looked like a phoebe, also known as the man-eating tree. According to legend, it could move freely for hundreds of years and devour humans and beasts. The local natives called it the tree god. When old Wang and I went there, we found that the tree had been killed by a lightning strike. Then we found this strange stone in the ashes and brought it back. He shook his head and said, my master thought it was some kind of jade essence or spirit jade. He studied it for 2 or 3 years but couldn't find anything. So he left it here. It was during that operation that we found Saw Island. Since then, we have used this island as our Taoist field and headquarters. Haha, jade essence, spirit jade, Wang Chongyan is really blind. Jiang Tian shook his head with a sarcastic expression. He stretched out his hand and the stone flew up automatically and fell into Jiang Tian's palm. Jiang Tian held the stone in his hand and said with a smile, this is a spiritual core of gold and wood. Gold and wood? Spiritual core? What is that? Lord Brahma was puzzled. The so-called gold and wood is a divine wood that contains a lot of metal elements. After it passes the thunder tribulation, it will have spirituality and can walk freely. It can even transform into a human form, fly in the sky, travel in the sea, and live for thousands of years. Jiang Tian smiled and said, the spiritual core is equivalent to the golden elixir formed by the immortals in ancient times after they became immortals and saints. It is the crystallization of spiritual qi formed by absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It is also the essence of its life. So those legends are true, not myths? Lord Brahma was shocked and said, a tree can walk and have spirituality. If a tree can live for tens of thousands of years, doesn't that make it an immortal? What's so strange about a divine wood having spirituality? Everything has spirituality. It's just that the spirituality varies. Jiang Tian looked at the gold and wood spiritual core in his hand and said lightly, you can say that it is an immortal. However, to be precise, it is a tree demon, a demonic cultivator. It should be regarded as a demonic immortal. Although this gold and wood spiritual core was only the size of an egg, it was extremely heavy, even heavier than metal. Moreover, it was shining with golden light. Under the perception of Jiang Tian's mind sense, there were streams of gold and wood spiritual qi lingering and fluctuating. The gold and wood spiritual core is the best material to build a metal body. A metal body is invulnerable and feels no pain. Its combat power is unparalleled. However, there are pros and cons in everything. Generally, it is the most difficult to build a metal body. Looking at the gold and wood spiritual core in his hand, Jiang Tian's mind was spinning rapidly. He already had an idea. Take refining the simplest, copper armor and iron body, in the cultivation world as an example. It requires soaking in copper water, drinking mercury, and swallowing gold sand for decades or even hundreds of years. However, because this kind of pain is not something that ordinary people, or even those cultivation geniuses, can bear, it is more likely to cause the cultivator's qigong deviation and his soul to be destroyed. But with the gold and wood spiritual core, it is different. The spiritual qi is of the metal attribute and is mainly used for killing. However, with the wood spiritual qi, it can nourish, absorb, and refine it. His eyes gradually became firm. I am still immortal. To put it bluntly, I have no spiritual root. Not to mention Qing'er's immortal body of the stainless phoenix, even many people with good aptitudes can't compare with it. Why don't I use this gold and wood spiritual core to rebuild my body? Chapter 319. While Jiang Tian was thinking, Fan Tian asked curiously, Master Kong, what do you need this spirit core for? That's none of your business. How could Jiang Tian reveal such a secret to others? After putting the metal and wood spirit core into his storage ring, he flew out of the treasure room. Master Kong, all the treasures have been packed and sent to Huaxia on a private plane. You can rest assured now. A moment later, Paris finished arranging everything and walked to Jiang Tian. She smiled and reported to Jiang Tian. Thank you for your hard work. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Master Kong, do you want to go to Huaxia? I heard that the spring festival of Huaxia is coming soon. Jenny said with a hint of reluctance. No. Jiang Tian shook his head and said indifferently, I want to go to Singapore and take a look. I understand. Master Kong, you want to test the Singapore government's attitude towards Master Kong, right? Parise asked with her beautiful eyes. That's only one of the reasons. Also, I want my wife to come over for a vacation. The winter of Huaxia is still very cold. Jiang Tian's face revealed a gentle smile. Seeing Jiang Tian smile, Parise was dazzled and envious. He must be smiling because he thought of his wife. He loved his wife so much. He didn't know what kind of woman would have such good fortune. Jenny's face turned pale. She asked involuntarily, so Master Kong is already married? Parise glared at her sister and said coquettishly in English, Sister, Huaxia people like to be reserved. You're too straightforward. Mr. Jiang won't like you. Jenny smiled bitterly and said, I couldn't help it. But since he's already married, I'll give them my blessings. Paris smiled seductively, her eyes seductive. She said in a sweet voice, My cute little sister, it's not a problem that he has a wife. Nothing can stop true love and passion. That's you. I can't do such a thing. Besides, I believe in Mr. Jiang's loyalty to marriage. Jenny rolled her eyes at her sister, who had an extremely messy private life, and said speechlessly, What are you guys talking about? Jiang Tian asked a little gloomily. In fact, his English was so bad that he couldn't understand their conversation at all. Looks like I have to find some time to learn all kinds of foreign languages. Otherwise, how can I dominate Japan, Korea, and the United States in the future? Naturally, Paris wouldn't rashly reveal her sister's unrealistic thoughts about Jiang Tian. She glanced at Jiang Tian charmingly and laughed coquettishly. I have a cruise ship called Princess Jenny. My grandmother gave it to Jenny as her coming-of-age birthday present. Now, it's anchored at the Malacca harbor. If Mr. Jiang wants to, you can invite your distinguished wife to spend a wonderful vacation on the cruise ship. I don't think many people can resist the temptation of tropical fruits and sunbathing at this time. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded and gladly agreed. I can also invite the Prime Minister of Singapore to join us and create a chance for Mr. Jiang to meet. Paris smiled. You're a smart person? Jiang Tian nodded. But your distinguished wife must be a delicate and weak classical beauty, like Lin Daiyu, right? If the Singapore military and police really take action, won't she be a burden to you? Paris reminded cleverly. She's never been a burden to me. Jiang Tian looked in the direction of Hua Xia with a gentle gaze, and the corner of his mouth curved into a happy smile. You, on the other hand, aren't you afraid that your cruise ship will become cannon fodder if a fight breaks out? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. I'm not worried. Paris smiled. That cruise ship is only worth a few million USD, and Mr. Jiang is giving me at least 100 million USD. If the price of a cruise ship is to become Mr. Jiang's friend, I don't think there's a better deal in the world than this. Suddenly, she snapped her fingers and smiled. Mr. Jiang, why don't I give you this cruise ship? I think you should ask your sister for her opinion. Doesn't this belong to her? Jiang Tian looked at Jenny and smiled. Is there a problem? Paris looked at Jenny. Although it was a question, her eyes were full of threat, as if saying, if you don't agree, I'll beat you up. Of course, it's my honor to give it to Mr. Jiang. Jenny wanted to cry but had no tears. On the same day, she fell out of love. Although it was just a crush, she still gave away her beloved cruise ship. It was too sad. Paris, you're a shrewd businesswoman. Jiang Tian praised her again. Hua Xia always reciprocates politeness with politeness. I hope that you can take over the Gua family's assets. You can take the commission according to the market price. Also, after this is done, I'm willing to sell the Gua family's hotel, shipping company, and other major assets to you. I'll give you a 10% discount according to the market price. Jiang Tian didn't want to expand his assets. The bigger the assets, the easier it would be to be targeted and suppressed by his opponents. He didn't care how much he sold it for. Too much money didn't mean much to him. This was because there were many cultivation resources that you couldn't even buy. Just like Wang Chongyan's treasure vault. Even if you spent billions, you wouldn't be able to open the door. The reason was very simple. To any top expert, cultivation resources and cultivation were the most important. Money was only a method to gather treasures of the heavens and earth to improve one's cultivation. Oh my God, Master Kong, you're so cool. Paris smiled happily. She hugged Jiang Tian's waist and gave him a kiss. Hey, I have a wife. Jiang Tian knew that she was hot and passionate. Her loose and unrestrained personality was famous in the world's upper class, so he didn't take it to heart. Paris let go of Jiang Tian and smiled. However, I'm willing to buy it at a fair price. Also, I'll reserve 10% of the gold shares for you. You can even influence the decisions of the Hilton family. You're too cunning. Jiang Tian smiled helplessly. He couldn't describe her as smart or witty. The reason why Paris reserved the gold shares was obvious. She wanted to tie Jiang Tian to the Hilton family's war chariot. That's right. From now on you're my boss. You have to protect me. Paris smiled slyly. Jinling, Jiang Manor. Virtuous people of all ages gathered in one place. The Chinese New Year was coming. Firecrackers and fireworks sounded from time to time in the Jiang Manor. The atmosphere was filled with celebration. Since the beginning of the year, the Jiang family had been on the rise. They had defeated the three most powerful families in Jinling. The Medicine King Group's new product launch was an instant hit. Even Jiang Chao, who was ignorant and incompetent, opened a restaurant and earned several million yuan a year, which made Second Aunt very happy. He had no choice. The Medicine King Group had too many jobs. Just the customers' spending alone was enough to make him a lot of money. Why isn't my cousin back yet? I miss him so much. Outside the courtyard, Jiang Wan was eating a lollipop. She pulled Qinger's arm and asked expectantly. She liked Qinger very much. Her cousin-in-law was amazing. She didn't even need a lighter to set off fireworks. She just waved her finger and flames appeared. Her magic was amazing. He's sunbathing in Southeast Asia. He doesn't care about us. What's there to miss? Qinger joked. Because my cousin's red packet is always the biggest. Jiang Wan said honestly. Oh, do you think it's bigger than my cousin-in-law's red packet? Qing'er smiled gently. She waved her hand, and a stack of 100 yuan bills slipped out of her rabbit-shaped storage ring. What a magic trick! Jiang Wan was dumbfounded. She then asked curiously, Sister-in-law, is this my New Year's money? Well, take it. Qing'er giggled. You're the best. Jiang Wan immediately cheered and stuffed a lot of money into her pockets. Her 2 pockets were almost full. At that moment, Zhao Xueqing's phone rang. She took the phone and scolded with a smile, I was just saying that you're heartless. How am I heartless? Jiang Tian asked in surprise. Oh, you're sunbathing in Southeast Asia and flirting with beautiful women. You've forgotten me and Wan. Zhao Xueqing said angrily. I'm innocent. You don't know how dangerous this battle was. I wiped out the Guo family. Jiang Tian laughed and said, besides, there were hundreds of Singaporean police officers. They were beaten to a pulp. Do you really think I went on a vacation? The police also attacked? How many died? More than 20. Well, you've become a terrorist in their eyes. Qing'er could not help but feel a little worried. She sighed and said, will the Singaporean police treat you as an enemy? They won't do anything to you, right? Do you want me to go over and help? I don't think it's very likely. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited until now. Besides, I'm not afraid of them if they do. Jiang Tian smiled and said, however, you still have to make a trip. Zhao Xueqing's eyes were infinitely gentle, but her mouth was teasing Jiang Tian. If you're still afraid, I'll let you come over for a vacation. Jiang Tian laughed and said, Jinling is cold and wet in winter. Come to the tropics to get some sun. I got you a cruise ship. Don't mention how awesome it is. Ha. At least you have some conscience. Then I'll fly over immediately. Zhao Xueqing laughed and said, fly over? Do you use a shuttle? Ah, can't I? Zhao Xueqing said, it's so troublesome to book a ticket. Shuttles are very fast. I've tried it before. They can break the sound barrier. Well, you'd better save it. Jiang Tian said, Huaxia's domestic aviation control is very strict. Don't let the military treat it as an enemy plane and shoot it down again. After all, we're all descendants of the Yellow Emperor. It's not good to kill our own soldiers. Well, that's true. Maybe it's an air raid. I'll book a ticket then. Qing'er smiled and pulled Jiang Weiner into the Jiang family's mansion. You're going to Singaporean for a vacation to look for cousin Jiang Tian? Jiang Weiner asked curiously. I want to go too. Jiang Weiner begged. Your cousin will be back soon. We'll stay there for 3 days at most. No, I want to go. I miss cousin Jiang Tian. Jiang Weiner refused and was about to cry. Chapter 320. She was only 5 or 6 years old. Like a porcelain doll, she was extremely cute. Her beautiful eyes were full of tears, and her pitiful appearance was irresistible. Okay, if your mother allows it, I'll take you there, okay? Qing'er squatted down and pinched her little face. Cousin-in-law is the best. The little girl suddenly smiled through her tears. Qing'er is back. Hello, sister-in-law. The people who were chatting with the old man in the living room stood up and greeted Qing'er respectfully when they saw her. Jiang Bangxia quickly gave up the seat next to the old man. Not only Jiang Chao and Jiang Bangxia's peers, but even eldest aunt and youngest aunt were also respectful and nervous. In fact, the Zhao family of Linzhou was just a third-rate family. Originally, they looked down on Qing'er a little. But now, it was different. A wife should be proud of her husband. Jiang Tian was the head of the Jiang family. He made the ruined Jiang family flourish and was famous in Jinling. As Jiang Tian's wife, who dared to disrespect her? Moreover, she was now a cultivator. It was no exaggeration to say that she could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground like a living immortal. When the Jiang family was attacked by the Dark Ones, she turned the tide. Everyone recognized and was very grateful to her. Don't be so polite. Talk about your business. Qing'er was a little uncomfortable with their trembling respect. It felt like she was a monster. She nodded and smiled at everyone. Then she walked to the seat next to the old man and sat down. She smiled and said, "Old man, Mom, Dad, Jiang Tian asked me to go to Nanyang's Star Continent to accompany him and me." Jiang Weiner pointed at herself, afraid that she would be left behind. He's not coming back for the spring festival? The old man was a little disappointed. Qing'e naturally wouldn't tell him about Jiang Tian's killing in Southeast Asia. She said, "He's not playing. He wants to talk about some business cooperation. Jiang Tian wants to push our Medicine King group into the Southeast Asian market?" The old man took it seriously. He was relieved and chuckled. Jiang Tian's idea is not bad. There are many Chinese in Southeast Asia, and their acceptance of Chinese medicine is very high. It's easier to enter the market. Wow, this time, is our Medicine King group going global? Jiang Bangxia and Jiang Lin were suddenly excited. Zhao Xueqing didn't say anything. The old man immediately expressed his support and said with a smile, Go quickly. You young people have your own careers. It's more important to work hard. You don't have to accompany an old man like me." "All right then, Sister Ziwei, help me book a ticket." Qing'e looked at Yi Ziwei and smiled. Yi Ziwei immediately made a call to her secretary. When she heard back, she smiled and said, "There are no direct flights to Singapore. You'll have to transfer to Yangqing or Zhonghai." "Let's transfer to Zhonghai then. I went to university in Zhonghai back then, so I can meet some of my classmates." Qing'e thought for a moment and smiled. "But," Yi Ziwei answered. Soon it was done. On the other hand, Jiang Tian had just hung up the phone when Paris smiled sweetly and said, "Master Kong, good news. The former Venerable Master Red Boat and Premier Li Xianlong are here to see you. They're already outside the island." "Why is it good news?" "They want to invite Master Kong to be the state preceptor of Singapore." Paris couldn't hide her excitement. She felt that she had made the right bet. It was the smartest investment she had ever made, and she was now riding on the coattails of the state preceptor. "Let them in." Jiang Tian's figure flashed and appeared in the main altar hall like a god. Disciple greets Master Kong. Li Xianlong's face was full of reverence and fear. He didn't dare to say a word. He lowered his head deeply and didn't even dare to look at Jiang Tian. Venerable Master Red Boat bowed respectfully and said, "Venerable Master Red Boat greets Master Kong." "What's the matter?" Jiang Tian was a man of few words. "We are willing to enshrine Master Kong as the state preceptor of Singapore. After Master Kong becomes the state preceptor, he will have the Singapore government as an important ally. All the treasures in Singapore will be at Master Kang's disposal. With Master Kang's wisdom, he won't refuse." Venerable Master Red Boat knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "Singapore will hold a grand coronation ceremony. Many high-ranking government officials and Singapore's rich and powerful families will attend. The Guo family's assets will all belong to Master Kong. With the endorsement of the Singapore government, it will take effect immediately." Li Xianlong added, bowing deeply. "Do you think that you have the right to cooperate with me just because you have all the treasures in the pill land of Singapore and the power of the rulers of small countries? If I want to get something, won't I be able to come and go as I please?" Jiang Tian revealed a mocking smile. Then, under Li Xianlong's shocked gaze, he said calmly, "Remember, you are not my allies, but my slaves. You may have power, but I have your lives in my hands." "We understand." Li Xianlong couldn't resist the majestic pressure and knelt on the ground with a thud. "However, seeing that you, Li Xianlong, are sensible and didn't provoke me, I will grant you the state preceptor position. Let me correct you, this is not a coronation ceremony. Why do I need the coronation of a small country's ruler? It should be called a coronation ceremony. Do it as soon as possible, tomorrow morning. My wife will be here tomorrow night, I want to accompany her." Jiang Tian smiled and slowly walked out of the hall. "We will follow Master Kang's instructions." Venerable Master Red Boat said respectfully, "Thank you, Master Kong. Thank you, Master Kong." This is the blessing of the Li family, the blessing of the people, and the blessing of Singapore. When Jiang Tian walked out of the hall, Li Xianlong realized that his back was cold and his body was drenched in sweat. The next day, Qing'e flew from Jinling to Zhonghai International Airport. There was a 3-hour break between flights. Qing'e held Jiang Weiner's hand and walked out of the airport. They took a taxi and went straight to Huadong University. Zhonghai was a first-tier city, second only to the capital, Yanjing. In terms of prosperity and economic development, it far surpassed Jinling. Even Huiyang city of Lingnan province was slightly inferior. When Zhao Xueqing came to this bustling city with simple luggage, her heart was filled with curiosity and awe. Yet now, she instead felt that all of this was ordinary and not worth mentioning. She was extremely indifferent towards it. As a self-cultivator, her mentality had changed. But when she thought of Huadong University, she still had a trace of expectation. This was her alma mater, where she spent 4 years of unforgettable university life. Sweet cake dessert shop on the east side of the school gate. A red Mercedes-Benz SUV was parked at the entrance. Qing'e held Jiang Weiner's hand and pushed the door open. A store manager greeted them warmly. "Welcome, what would you like?" "A glass of freshly squeezed juice." "What would you like, Weiner?" "I want ice cream." "Fresh milk." A fashionably dressed girl who was sitting with her back to the door heard Zhao Xueqing's voice and quickly ran over. She hugged Qing'e and smiled in surprise. "Qing, you're here." "Sister Sue, I'm on a business trip to Singapore. I'm in Zhonghai, so I came to see you." Zhao Xueqing smiled and then looked at the card on the girl's chest. She smiled and said, "You've become the assistant to the chairman of Zhiqing Investment?" She had also heard of this company. It could be on par with the famous Sequoia Capital and was known as the SoftBank of Huaxia. Yes, now Sweet Cake Dessert Shop has opened more than a dozen branches in Zhonghai and has become the #1 cake and dessert brand. Sister Sue pulled Qing'e to sit down and said with a smile, "Brother Yi also withdrew from Sweet Cake and cashed out 200 million. As for me and some of the older members of the team, we followed Brother Yi to start another business. The new platform was invested in by Zhiqing." Sister Sue was very beautiful. She was tall, had exquisite facial features, and straight shoulder-length black hair, giving people a very refreshing feeling. In Zhonghai, she could be the assistant to the chairman of a big investment company. Her annual salary was also in the millions. At that time in Zhonghai, she was considered a gold-collar worker. However, when she mentioned Brother Yi, her face was full of reverence and her eyes were full of stars, like a brainless fan meeting her idol. "So Zhiqing Investment is Brother Yi's." Zhao Xueqing was stunned, then nodded and smiled. "Yes, he's not a simple person. In the end, he has to pursue a bigger career. Yes, back then, Brother Yi was only a 4th-year student. I was still a graduate student. When he brought us to start a business, I only thought that he was messing around. Who knew that he would turn a small dessert shop into the #1 dessert brand in Zhonghai in just a year?" Sister Sue smiled and said, "However, I later found out that he was actually Yichida's grandson. That's why he's so extraordinary." The waiter brought 2 cups of freshly squeezed juice and a cup of fresh milk ice cream for Jiang Weiner. Zhao Xueqing sipped the juice and was slightly stunned. "What? He's actually Yichida's grandson. Our market economics textbook was written by Professor Yichida." Zhao Xueqing majored in finance at Huadong University's business school. It could be said that Yichida's existence was like a god to students of this major. In the early days of reform and opening up, as the dean of the School of Economics and Management, he proposed a market economy theory with the characteristics of Huaxia. It was like thunder in spring, avoiding the debate of capitalism or capitalism, and proposed a clear idea for Huaxia's reform and opening up. Later, he entered the core of Beijing's power and became the chief think tank of Deng Gong and many other leaders. He made indelible contributions to the economic development of Huaxia. Now, Yichida was already a prominent figure in the field of economics in Huaxia. His every move could change the fate of an industry and region. He could give lectures to leaders in the Government Administration Council. Many provincial officials and the richest people on the Forbes list were his students. He was known as the imperial tutor in the field of economics in Huaxia. Yes, Yi Haochen is really too low-key. If someone else had such a background, wouldn't their tail be raised to the sky? Sister Su said with a face of reverence, but Haochen never talked about these relationships in front of his teachers and classmates. He didn't even publicize or use these relationships at work. A year ago, when I went back to school to attend the alumni gathering, I heard from our school's Dean Lee that he didn't know Yi Haochen's identity at that time. Oh, so he's so powerful, Zhao Xueqing said in surprise. You didn't know? You didn't contact him? Sister Su was surprised. Seeing Zhao Xueqing nod, she said coquettishly, you really have no conscience. Yi Haochen was extraordinarily good to you back then. If it weren't for him, you wouldn't have been able to go to university. That's true, but... Zhao Xueqing said with a wry smile. It could be said that Zhao Xueqing had always been very grateful to Yi Haochen. However, after she graduated from university, she immediately married Jiang Tian. Her life was a mess, and there was an endless mess to clean up. How could she have time to contact these old friends of hers? Chapter 321. Zhao Xueqing was the child of Zhao Huqing's deceased wife. Wei Fang used to be a little cold to her. Her college living expenses were also intermittent. Sometimes, she didn't even have money for food, let alone cosmetics and clothes. At that time, she was in her first year of college, and Yi Haochen was already in his fourth year. He founded the sweet desserts brand and opened several branches in the university town and the entire Zhonghai. Zhao Xueqing once applied for a job at Huadong University. Normally, they didn't hire part-time workers, but Yi Haochen sympathized with Zhao Xueqing's difficulties and hired her directly. Moreover, Yi Haochen took care of her and helped her a lot in college. He even let her be the store manager and gave her a good salary. It was because of this part-time job that Zhao Xueqing was able to establish herself in Zhonghai. She lived a carefree life and successfully completed her studies. Not only that, Yi Haochen also taught Zhao Xueqing a lot of management skills and even changed her timid and inferior personality. He was indeed a good teacher and helpful friend. After graduation, it wasn't as simple as it was in school. Everyone had their own difficulties. Sister Su didn't ask much. She suddenly smiled mysteriously and said, "But Qingye, do you know that Yi Haochen actually likes you?" "What are you kidding about? I'm just a country girl from Linzhou. Why would he like me?" Zhao Xueqing didn't believe it at all. "You don't know. Once, it was raining heavily. He saw that you didn't have an umbrella in the shop and waited for the rain to stop under a tree by the roadside. He asked me if I had an umbrella. Said yes. He said that even if I did, I should use his umbrella and leave it for me. Then he rushed out, used his windbreaker to block the rain, and ran back to school with you." Sister Su said with a smile. That's nothing. Maybe he likes to be in the rain." Zhao Xueqing's face was a little unnatural as she smiled faintly. He was very good. His vision was broad, his ability was extraordinary, and he treated people very well. He was a popular figure in school. Many female students liked him back then, and he was known as the most handsome senior. Now, he had become a big entrepreneur. In everyone's eyes, he was a golden bachelor, a successful person. However, not to mention that Yi Haochen didn't make their relationship clear back then. Even if he did, she wouldn't regret being with Jiang Tian. In her heart, no one could compare to Jiang Tian. You have your good points. You are elegant and unrestrained. You have your family background. You have outstanding abilities. Those are all very good. But I just don't like them. Zhao Xueqing stopped asking about Yi Haochen. Sister Su began to show off her life over the years. High salary, flying around the world every day, marrying a rich second-generation heir with tens of millions in assets, buying a big house in Suwei district, and even the BMW SUV outside was hers. However, Sister Su introduced him as if she was familiar with her family treasures. Yi Haochen is very powerful now. If you were with him back then, you would have definitely become a phoenix. His father is now the mayor of Zhonghai City, and he is the leader of the rich second generation in Zhonghai. He's our Zhiqing investment company, and he specializes in venture capital. He invests in high-tech companies, and then he packages them to be listed in Hong Kong before getting listed overseas. He's worth tens of billions. This kind of business is simply robbery. You know about Penguin, right? Huaxia's largest instant messaging software. He has 10% of the shares. It's said that it will be listed in 5 years. By then, he will be the new rich of Huaxia. You don't know how powerful Brother Yi is. Last time, I accompanied Brother Yi to meet with a rich man in Yanjing to discuss some cooperation matters. During the dinner, the son of that rich man touched me. Brother Yi slapped him directly. Guess what? You think that boss will explode? Wrong. He was so scared that he was about to cry. He even asked his son to apologize to me. That rich man is so powerful. His uncle was once a deputy national leader. He is also a regular on the Forbes list. She also kept saying that Yi Haochen must have had a crush on Zhao Xueqing back then. She felt sorry for Zhao Xueqing for missing out on Yi Haochen. Jiang Wan, who was eating dessert, smiled disdainfully and said, "Auntie Sue, that's not very good. She's already married." Who is she? Sister Sue was slightly stunned and said with a smile, "This is my husband's cousin. Her name is Jiang Wan." You're so mischievous. Don't interrupt when adults are talking. Sister Sue pinched Jiang Wan's little face, causing her to roll her eyes. Seeing that Zhao Xueqing was a little cold, Sister Sue said with a smile, "You're already married. How are you doing? Are you happy?" "My husband is very good. He's very good to me too," Zhao Xueqing said with a smile. "You're married? That's too bad." Sister Sue had also heard that Zhao Xueqing's marriage was not very happy. She had pretended not to know before. Zhao Xueqing looked at the time and said with a smile, "All right, Sister Sue. My plane is about to take off. Let's talk next time." "I'll send you off." Sister Sue quickly got up and sent Zhao Xueqing out. She then opened the door of the Mercedes-Benz SUV. "I don't think that's a good idea. You're still working. It's too much trouble for you. I'll just take a taxi," Zhao Xueqing said with a smile, a little embarrassed. "It's no trouble." Sister Sue smiled and pushed Jiang Wan and Zhao Xueqing into the car. They arrived at Zhonghai International Airport. Seeing that Sister Sue had also taken out her ticket and boarding pass, Zhao Xueqing was stunned. She said, "Why are you also, hee. Actually, I'm going to Singapore on a business trip too, and I'm going with Yi Haochen." Sister Sue smiled slyly and said, "Are you looking forward to it?" "Looking forward to what?" Zhao Xueqing frowned and said, "But I'm quite surprised. What a coincidence." Sister Sue rolled her eyes and thought to herself, "Keep pretending. That useless husband of yours can't stop you from loving Yi Haochen. Back then you were his follower. Now he's on a higher level." They arrived at the boarding gate. A group of rich second-generation heirs of Zhonghai stood there chatting and laughing with a handsome young man. Yi Haochen's father was the mayor of Zhonghai, Yi Weihao. His grandfather was the economic tycoon, Yi Qida. Huaxia's first securities law was completed by him. He was also doing well in the investment industry, with a compound annual return of 100%. Naturally, he was admired by a group of friends. Their topics were very high-end. Basically, they talked about business opportunities, the opportunities and risks of emerging markets in Southeast Asia, and listing in the United States and Hong Kong. Zhao Xueqing didn't rush up to greet them. She stood aside and lowered her head to tease Jiang Wan. She even heard from a rich second-generation heir that Yi Haochen had bought a Seaview villa in Singapore worth 300 million and spent tens of millions on a yacht. A rich second-generation heir said enviously, "Your Zhiqing investment report this year is out, right? You have plans to expand into Southeast Asia? That's an international financial tycoon." Yi Haochen smiled and said, "My dad doesn't have that much power. I'm just a partner. You know Fang Zhanbo, the finance professor in Hong Kong, right? They want to develop Southeast Asia and establish a Southeast Asian Financial Revitalization Society. He's my grandfather's junior who was a visiting scholar in the United States. He invited me to join. It's just a small matter." Behind them sat a group of middle-aged men with a white-haired old man in the center. Zhao Xueqing recognized the old man. He was Yi Haochun's grandfather, Yichida. When there was a break, Sister Su pointed at Zhao Xueqing and said with a smile, "Chairman Yi, look who's here." Xueqing? The moment he saw Zhao Xueqing, Yi Haochun was pleasantly surprised. He quickly walked over and shook hands with Zhao Xueqing. He said, "I was wondering why Su Jie was dragging her feet. It turns out that she came with you. But you're also on this flight?" "Yeah, I'm going to Singapore to accompany my husband. He's traveling there." Zhao Xueqing smiled. "Oh, so that's how it is." Yi Haochun looked at Zhao Xueqing with a complicated expression. She was wearing a short white trench coat with a white shirt and black silk leggings. Her delicate, snow-white ankles were exposed between her high heels. Although it was simple, he could see that the tailoring was decent. The stitches were dense, so it should be a good brand. But for some reason, when he saw this well-behaved girl who followed him around in university, he felt that her temperament was otherworldly. She was elegant and peerless, with a trace of charm. It made his heart flutter. "You're going to Singapore too? What a coincidence. Other than business activities, I'm also planning to travel there for a few days. Let's go together. Did you change your phone number?" Yi Haochun asked. "No, it hasn't. But we'll see when the time comes. I have a lot of things to do, so I might not have the time." Zhao Xueqing smiled. "Oh, that's good. Let's see when the time comes." Yi Haochun looked at Zhao Xueqing in surprise. A few years ago, whenever he arrived at Huadong University, Zhao Xueqing would always ask to meet him. She would follow him around like a shadow, whether it was to report about work or to ask him to answer questions about her life and studies. But this time, when he took the initiative to invite her, she was neither cold nor warm. He could no longer see the worship in her eyes or the blush on her pretty face. Was it because she was married? That couldn't be right. He heard her classmates say that her husband was a good-for-nothing and that their marriage was very unhappy. He didn't know why, but he felt a little unwilling. Yi Haochun was silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "My dad wants me to move the company overseas. He said there are more opportunities in the emerging markets here. In the future, we won't be able to see each other so easily." Zhao Xueqing looked at him in shock. Yi Haochun saw her expression and felt a little proud in his heart. A sense of accomplishment gradually surged. However, after a short silence, Zhao Xueqing smiled and said, "How can that be? Aren't you going back to China? If you go to Jinling for business, we can still see each other. I'll introduce my husband to you then. It'll be helpful for your career." "Really?" Yi Haochun's smile was a little stiff. What a polite tone. "Also, your husband will help my career?" What did that mean? Xia, there were only a few young people who could help me. Zhao Xueqing looked at the boarding gate. The boarding had already begun. She pulled Jiang Weiner away and said lightly, "Senior Yi, you're so amazing. Everyone do your best." "Yes, it's time to board." Yi Haochun looked at her back and felt a sense of unwillingness and loneliness that could not be erased from his heart. She didn't even ask which country I was going to. This amazing, can you not be so perfunctory? Moreover, from the beginning to the end, she had been looking in the southeast direction. Was she looking forward to meeting her husband? He wasn't too sure about this, but he was sure that what she was looking forward to had nothing to do with him. So frustrating. Chapter 322. He sat in the cabin and the plane took off. Yi Haochun's father, Yi Weihao, glanced at Zhao Xueqing and asked in a low voice, "University classmate?" "Yup." Yi Haochun nodded. "You should get your act together." As the mayor of Zhonghai, Yi Weihao exuded a powerful aura. He spoke slowly, "You're already engaged to Miss Chow from Yanjing. This is a decision that benefits both families. She's a jealous woman, so you can't do anything stupid." He knew his son's personality better than anyone else. Although he wasn't as arrogant as the other rich kids, he was much more mature than his peers. However, when it came to relationships, he was a bit messy. Fortunately, Yi Haochun handled it appropriately. His emotional entanglement with the young ladies of Zhonghai didn't cause much of a stir. It could be said that they parted on good terms. However, Miss Chow from Yanjin was a jealous woman. She had a boyfriend in Beijing. Just because he danced with a girl on the dance floor, she drove her sports car and crashed into his car at Jiangguimen. She even beat up her boyfriend and the girl. The families behind the three young men were all famous in Yanjin. Therefore, they caused quite a stir. Soon, Miss Chow's reputation as the lioness of Huaxia spread throughout the upper class of Huaxia. But what could they do? The Chow family was too powerful. Even Yi Weihao had to rely on them. I understand. A gloomy look flashed across Yi Haochen's eyes as he sighed gloomily. After the coronation ceremony, Jiang Tian took over the Gua family's assets and had a drink with some of the top tycoons in Singapore. Then, he returned to the Hilton Hotel. Jiang Tian declined the Hilton sisters' offer of a car. Instead, he took a taxi and went to the airport to pick up Qing. Jiang Tian, have you been here for a long time? The moment Qing saw Jiang Tian, she had a pleasantly surprised look on her face. She quickly walked over to greet him, and then gave him a passionate hug. Not too long. Jiang Tian patted Qing's head and smiled tenderly. Good luck. Jiang Tian smiled. Was this her husband? I heard that he's a lunatic, but it seems like he's still normal. Yi Haochen, who was also leaving the airport, saw this scene and could not help but be stunned. A trace of inquiry flashed through his eyes. Seeing Qing looking at Jiang Tian with such tenderness, he couldn't help but feel a little jealous. This kind of gaze was not only filled with adoration and worship, but also a deep longing. It seemed that their relationship was really good. Isn't that Master Kong? Han Yen was taken aback by Qin Fan's words and her face paled. It's really him, but he seems to have become more handsome. Mai Shilong was also stunned. They would never forget the scene in Shenong School when Jiang Tian flew into the sky and burrowed into the ground, fighting against many martial artists and warlocks. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was like a godlike existence. Yen, let's go over and say hello. After all, they saved us back then and cured your grandfather's serious illness. Mai Shilong pondered for a moment and said, more than a year had passed, and Mai Shilong was more mature and steady than before. In fact, ever since he saw Jiang Tian's godly appearance, he understood that there was always someone better than him. He had completely put away his arrogance and became humble and cautious. This made him gain the approval of his parents. Now, he was in charge of the family business and had achieved a lot. Han Yen was impressed by him and the two of them got married. Yes. Han Yen and Mai Shilong walked over quickly, hand in hand. Han Yen smiled and said, Master Kong, I didn't expect to see you here. Are you here for a vacation? Jiang Tian looked at the two of them in surprise and then remembered their identities. He smiled and said, it seems that you two are married? Yes, Master Kong. I haven't seen you for more than a year. I've been missing you. Mai Shilong bowed respectfully. Congratulations. Jiang Tian smiled and said, work hard and make a baby soon. Han Yen smiled shyly, and the nervousness in her heart eased a little. Mai Shilong saw that Jiang Tian was very approachable and had an idea. He smiled and said, Master Kong, which hotel do you want to stay at? I'll send you there. I'm staying at the Hilton Hotel. Don't bother. I can take a taxi. It's very convenient. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Hilton Hotel? What a coincidence, we're going the same way. Mai Shilong was pleasantly surprised and then begged, Master Kong, it's no trouble. Let's go together. Master Kong, we haven't had the chance to repay your kindness. Today we met in Singapore. It means that we are fated to meet. Please give us this chance. Han Yen also said with a sincere face. Although they didn't know about Jiang Tian's reputation in the martial arts world, they knew that Jiang Tian was a great person based on the fact that Jiang Tian had defeated all the experts in Shenong School. How could they miss the opportunity to curry favor with Jiang Tian? Forget it, Jiang Tian. Since you know each other, let's go together. Before Jiang Tian could say anything, Qing smiled and said, she was a kind person. Seeing Han Yen's anxious face and about to cry, she couldn't bear it. Okay then. Jiang Tian nodded. Mai Shilong quickly went to help Qing'e with the luggage and opened the car door for Jiang Tian. Han Yen picked up Jiang Wan and smiled. What a cute little girl. Next to them, Su Jie frowned and asked, why are Mai Shilong and Yen so respectful to them? Heh, maybe it's because of me. This Mai Shilong couple is quite smart. Yi Haochen didn't think much of it. On the way, Jiang Tian looked at the two with a smile. Mai Shilong, what brings you to Singapore? Oh, it's like this. Singapore has signed a free trade agreement with the government of Huaxia. They want to build a free trade zone in one of the coastal cities as a pilot project. Now, both Zhonghai and Yangcheng are fighting for this pilot project. Mai Shilong sat down cautiously. He didn't even dare to sit down properly. Half of his body was hanging in the air. He closed his legs together and placed his hands on his knees. He looked like a subordinate reporting to his superior. Yen and I, as well as the other bosses, are all representatives of our companies. We are here to showcase the development of our companies. Other than that, some government officials will also be here to talk about the various good policies in Zhonghai. We hope that Singapore will establish a free trade zone in Zhonghai. Not bad. You are all representatives. Jiang Tian praised. You are too kind. Mai Shilong hurriedly smiled apologetically, respectfully, and sincerely said, Grandmaster Jiang is an otherworldly expert, like an immortal. We're just making a little money. How could we be worthy of your attention? Mrs. Jiang is so beautiful. Han Yen looked at Zhao Xueqing carefully. She was a little mesmerized. In fact, when she met Zhao Xueqing at the Zhonghai airport, she didn't pay much attention to Zhao Xueqing even when Yi Haochen went over to greet her. But now, after knowing that she was Jiang Tian's wife, she took a closer look. The more she looked, the more she thought Zhao Xueqing was beautiful. She was proud of her beauty. Before she married Mai Shilong, she was pursued by many rich men. But compared to Zhao Xueqing, she suddenly felt inferior. Zhao Xueqing was not only picturesque, but her facial features were also exquisite. Her skin was white and tender. Most importantly, she had an otherworldly temperament, like a fairy who didn't belong to the mortal world. This temperament couldn't be created by clothes, jewelry, or makeup. It was innate. But Jiang Tian snapped his fingers in front of her dazed eyes and smiled. Hey Hanyan, look at your eyes. You are almost drooling. Don't tell me you have been turned gay by my wife? Master Kong, you don't look like a master at all. Who is drooling? Han Yen looked away. It's not your fault. My wife is the most beautiful woman in the world. Women can't help but like her. Jiang Tian smiled. Han Yen's face turned red. She suddenly remembered that in Shinnong town, she had deliberately approached Jiang Tian and said that she wanted to sleep with him at night in order to bully Mai Shilong. But Jiang Tian had pushed her to the ground. At that time, she had been curious as to why Jiang Tian had rejected her. Now, she felt that it was only natural. Jiang Tian had such a beautiful wife. Why would he care about a common woman like her? What kind of master is he? He is just a hooligan. Qing'e glared at Jiang Tian, as if she felt that Jiang Tian was too brazen. Are you hungry? Let me get you something to eat. Jiang Tian waved his hand and a tonghulu appeared. You will get hungrier the more you eat. Qing'e picked up the tonghulu and took a small bite. Then she rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian. I have completed the mission in Singapore. I am now the Grand Preceptor. Jiang Tian said meaningfully. That's the right thing for them to do. What can they do? Pull out missiles and fighter jets? I am here. Don't be afraid. Big sister will protect you. Zhao Xueqing patted Jiang Tian's head and smiled. Jiang Tian was speechless. Your pure phoenix immortal body is amazing. I will also become the divine gung metal body soon, okay? Although Mai Shilong and Han Yen did not understand their conversation and even felt that it was a little childish, they smiled and looked at each other. They both had a wonderful feeling. How should they put it? They were really a match made in heaven. They arrived at the Hilton Hotel and went to the guest room. Jiang Wan fell asleep quickly. Zhao Xueqing lay on the bed and stretched. At the airport, You asked Xiao Mai and Yen to make a baby. When are we going to make one? This? There is no rush. Jiang Tian thought of a naughty child who called him Papa and felt very strange. He had been a cultivator for thousands of years. Even if dual cultivation sometimes helped him break through some barriers, it was very beneficial. His heart was in love with Qing'e, but he had never had a cultivation partner, let alone children. At this time, he felt a little strange. Okay then, I am going downstairs to drink. Qing'e rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian. Yen? Just asked me to go downstairs to drink. I said I was preparing for pregnancy. Are you going? I won't go. I don't like this kind of occasion. Jiang Tian shook his head. Mai Shilong and Han Yen were just flattering and trying to build a relationship. Just thinking about it made him feel bored. Then I will go alone. I want to get drunk. This. Jiang Tian shook his head helplessly, but he did not stop her. Qing'er's life had always been very restrained, and she always bore an invisible pressure. Now it was time for her to relax. Jiang Tian did not expect that Qing'er's trip would cause such a big trouble. Chapter 323. Downstairs in the bar of the hotel. A group of tycoons from Zhonghai were drinking and eating chicken satay with coconut rice to fill their stomachs. They weren't used to the free food provided on the plane, so they decided to try some local delicacies for supper. Without a doubt, Yi Haochen was still the center of attention. However, this time, Mai Shilong and Han Yen were sitting in a booth far away from them, as if they wanted to leave the center of attention. Su Jie rolled her eyes and sneered. Boss Yi, what's wrong with them? Why aren't they here for a toast? Go back to the free trade zone. Their companies are not allowed to enter. What are you talking about? That's my dad's business, not mine. If they want to drink, then let them drink. Yi Haochen smiled generously. Then, Yang Wenlun walked in. Yi Haochen greeted him and said, Yang Wenlun, you're here. Young Master Yi. Yang Wenlun bowed respectfully. He had dark circles under his eyes and looked tired as if he hadn't slept well recently. Yi Haochen gestured for him to sit down and poured him a glass of beer. Yang Wenlun quickly took it with both hands. Thank you, young master. What can I do for you? He didn't dare to offend Yi Haochen. The Crown Prince of Zhonghai was a spiritual leader among the children of the rich and powerful. He was even one of the top figures in China. His recent engagement with Chao Jingyi from the Chao family in Yanjin was a big deal. Yi Haochen sipped his beer elegantly and smiled. Xiao Yang, how's the deal with the Guo family? Deal? It's over. Yang Wenlun took a sip of beer and shook his head in disappointment. Every time he thought about how Jiang Tianheng slaughtered the Guo clan, he felt as if he had just had a nightmare. His mind trembled and he trembled. Even now, he still hadn't regained his senses. His heart was in a mess. At the auction house, he had insulted Jiang Tian. Moreover, he had obeyed Guo Changsheng's orders and coerced Li Xinyue to set up a trap to harm Jiang Tian. Even though Jiang Tian didn't punish him, how could he forget? He was dead meat. Oh, it's yellow. Yi Haochen was taken aback for a moment before he comforted her with a smile. That's not surprising. The Guo family's shipping company is well known all over the world. Of course, they have high standards for quality. Keep up the good work. There's no chance. Yang Wenlun picked up the wine glass. His hands were trembling violently, and his teeth kept colliding with the wine glass, producing a burst of explosive sounds like a machine gun. Why should he continue to work hard? Motherfucker, the Guo clan had been flattened. There weren't many survivors left. They had all become Jiang Tians. Don't be so dejected. Yi Haochen comforted her. Guo Changsheng from the Guo family came to Zhonghai before. I've received him before. I can still talk to him a little. I'll help you ask for mercy and see if there's still a chance. There was a hint of bragging in his tone. Guo Changsheng, this is killing me. What a scam. Yang Wenlun gritted his teeth and said in a daze. He was dizzy. Jiang Tian had scared him so much that he hadn't slept for 3 consecutive days. He couldn't hold on any longer. But he was still very angry. If it weren't for you, Guo Changsheng, would I have offended Jiang Tian? What a scam. Be careful. This is the Gua family's territory. If they hear what you said, even I can't protect you. Yi Haochen's face suddenly turned pale. He was so scared that his whole body trembled. He glared at him fiercely. Yang Wenlun didn't say anything. He finished a glass of beer and gradually calmed down. I called you over because I want to ask you about someone, Yi Haochen suddenly said. Oh, go ahead. You were studying at the Jinling Pharmaceutical University's Renda College, right? Do you know someone called Jiang Tian? Ga. Jiang Tian. You go first. I'll talk to you later. Yang Wenlun was so scared that he almost fainted. He trembled all over and said in a trembling voice, Jiang Tian is a demon. He's so scary, so cruel, so violent. I knew it. Yi Haochen suddenly snorted, and his murderous intent rose. He really wasn't a good person. Just now, Yi Haochen had asked Su Jie to ask a few classmates who were close to Zhao Xueqing. They all said that Zhao Xueqing's marriage was very unhappy. It was said that she married a good-for-nothing who often beat and scolded Zhao Xueqing. In an instant, Yi Haochen's desire to protect Zhao Xueqing rose. He wanted to save this little junior who was in deep trouble. Of course, it was more because of his unwillingness to give up. If he gave her a happy life, she would probably. It seems that Qing'er is not living a happy life. Su Jie also looked sympathetic. She pointed at the booth where Mai Shilong and Han Yen were and said, Xueqing just came down and has been drinking. She never drank before. She must be drowning her sorrows in alcohol. Yang Wenlun quickly left. Yi Haochen sighed sadly, got up, and walked slowly to Qing. Mr. Yi, you're here. Have a seat. Mai Shilong stood up and gave his seat to Yi Haochen. Senior, it's too lively over there. I didn't notice that you were here. Qing'e also greeted him politely. She had drunk a few glasses of wine, and her eyes were hazy. Her pretty face was flushed as if she had put on rouge, which made her look even more charming. Seeing Yi Haochen walk to Qing'er's table, a tall, muscular young man with a buzz cut asked, Mr. Yi, what are you doing over there? I haven't had enough wine yet. His name was Su Yuhang, and he sat there like a small mountain. His fists had long been worn flat and covered in calluses, exuding a sharp and terrifying aura. He was the chief instructor of the Zhonghai Armed Police Force, and his father was also a high-ranking official in the Zhonghai garrison. This time, he wasn't accompanying Yi Haochen on a sightseeing tour, but was the person in charge of security for many high-ranking officials and entrepreneurs. He had brought 7 or 8 young brothers with him, all of whom were powerful and nimble. He ran into an old flame and wants to rekindle their old flame. Su Jie took a sip of red wine and smiled. TSK, that girl looks pretty good. Mr. Ye's taste is really top-notch. Su Yuhang grinned. Su Jie, can you introduce me to someone of a higher class? She's not some superstar or socialite. She's just a child from a poor family. How can she not kneel down and lick Mr. Ye's boots? She's not challenging at all. An elegant young man wearing gold-rimmed glasses smiled disdainfully and shook his head lightly. His name was Wang Quan, and he was a partner in one of the top law firms in Zhonghai. His family was in the Justice Bureau, and he specialized in legal matters regarding IPOs. He was also one of the most influential young masters in Zhonghai. Eating too much meat is too greasy. You should change your diet. Mr. Yi likes to eat light food recently. Su Jie smiled. She didn't feel guilty towards Zhao Xueqing. Instead, she felt that she had done something good for Zhao Xueqing and helped her form a good relationship. Zhao Xueqing was obviously pretending. She married a useless husband and lived an abyss of suffering. Now that Yi Haochen was willing to provide for her, she was like a savior. After Yi Haochen sat down and saw Qing'er's charming appearance, he couldn't help but take out a heart-shaped red velvet box from his pocket. In the middle of the box was a dazzling diamond necklace. He said, Qing'e, your birthday is coming soon. This is for you. Senior, I can't accept such an expensive gift. The smile on Qing'er's face gradually disappeared, and she felt very uncomfortable. Qing'e, do you know? After so many years, I've always been worried that you're not living well. Yi Haochen's eyes were a little wet. He said in a trembling voice, Some things, once missed, can never be found again. But some feelings in my heart will never change. Accept it, Xing. On the side, my Shilong and Han Yen were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. What the hell? What's going on? Is Yi Haochen crazy? How dare he steal Master Kang's woman? I'm living well. My husband is also very good to me. Zhao Xueqing pushed the diamond necklace back. She said calmly but firmly, I know that you've always treated me like a sister. I'll remember this in my heart, and I'm very grateful. Yi Haochen was slightly stunned. Zhao Xueqing's family background was very ordinary. This necklace was worth 3 to 4 million. How could it not move her? Perhaps Zhao Xueqing was really afraid of being bullied by her husband. Her personality was weak after all. Perhaps he should add fuel to the fire. He put a bunch of keys on the table and said affectionately, My feelings for you are not as simple as brother and sister. This is the key to a villa in Singapore. I bought it for 100 million and just spent more than 10 million to renovate it. Qingya, if you're willing to be my confidant, this villa is yours. Qingya could no longer maintain her composure. She sneered and said, Mr. Yi, do you think I'm one of those female celebrities? I think, Mr. Yi, you probably don't know my and my husband's net worth. To put it bluntly, there's no rich person in this world who's worthy of Zhao Xueqing's company. Not to mention the tens of billions of assets in Jiang Tian's hands now, even the Zhao family had 2 to 3 billion in their hands. It was just a villa worth 100 million. Jiang Tian then made a few high-quality instruments and bought it in a day or two. How could it be worthy of Zhao Xueqing's attention? At that moment, my Shilong advised, Young Master Yi, forget it. Some words and feelings should be hidden in your heart. Otherwise, you'll attract unexpected trouble. He had good intentions, but those words were particularly unpleasant to Yi Haochen. He frowned in disgust and said disdainfully, What? What can that useless husband of hers do to me? If he dares to come over, I'll slap him away. Young Master Yi, let's talk. Listen to me. Han Yen reached out and pulled Yi Haochen's arm. Yi Haochen shook his arm violently, causing Han Yen to stagger. He said impatiently, You two go away. Can't you see that I'm catching up with my old classmate? Don't you understand? If you talk nonsense again, I'll make sure you can't survive in Zhonghai. My Shilong hurriedly helped Han Yen and was a little annoyed. Yi Haochen was a tyrant in Zhonghai. On the surface, he looked gentle and refined, but in his bones, he was extremely arrogant and overbearing. In fact, my Shilong was a little unhappy with him. However, the other party had a strong background and there was nothing he could do. At that moment, seeing that the other party didn't know what was good for him and even threatened him, he couldn't be bothered anymore. He looked at Yi Haochen with sympathy and said, Young Master Yi, we've said all the good things. If you want to die, then we won't stop you. He pulled Han Yen aside and called Jiang Tian. Chapter 324. Yi Haochen ignored him, looked at Zhao Xueqing and said affectionately, Qing, you misunderstood me. I don't think of you as one of those greedy and vulgar women. I just want to give us some space to be alone. I want you to live a better life. I want you to have someone to entrust your feelings to. Come with me to my room, we can talk slowly. I've always missed the simple and beautiful life in school. You missed the simple and beautiful life of the past? It can be seen how miserable you are now, ha. Zhao Xueqing stood up. Her laughter was as beautiful as heavenly music, but she was actually very angry. My feelings are all with my husband. I don't need to entrust them to a vulgar thing like you. It's rare to see a daydreaming man like you. This anger not only came from Yi Haochen's belittling of her, but also from the destruction of a beautiful life. Yes, in her heart, the ideal and perfect senior with lofty aspirations, who could do anything, completely collapsed. She didn't expect him to have become so greasy, vulgar, and even dirty. Qingya, I won't let you go. I know you're hiding your feelings from me. Yi Haochen blocked the entrance of the booth. Please get out of the way. Qingya frowned. She was annoyed. What if I don't move? Qing'e couldn't believe it. She really didn't expect the most handsome senior of the past, the current crown prince of Zhonghai, to become such a scoundrel. How was the current Yi Haochen different from Li Pengtao and Lu Wangfeng, who were drooling over her beauty? However, Qing'e was different. She was no longer that weak girl who could be bullied, but a powerful cultivator, a supreme beauty who could sweep through the world. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. If you don't move, I'll make a move. Qing'e shouted angrily. What did you say? Yi Haochen was slightly stunned, and then suddenly became angry. He shouted at the top of his lungs, Qing'e, if you were happy, I would definitely not appear in front of you. But, how could you marry a trash like Jiang Tian? He beats people, eats, drinks, gambles, everything. How can such a man be worthy of you, and how can he give you happiness? But in the next moment, Qing'e had already slapped him. But, with a bang, Yi Haochen flew out like a scarecrow, smashing 4 or 5 tables. Everyone was shocked and looked over. They were dumbfounded and didn't dare to believe their eyes. Qing'e lazily clapped her hands and said coldly, whether he's a lunatic or a hedonist, even if he's a devil who kills people like flax, you have no right to talk about him. Everyone was dumbfounded. Young Master Ye's charm doesn't work? Wang Quan's mouth was wide open in disbelief. Su's strength. Su, his face was shocked. Why did he beat him? It's over. I'm going to be scolded by young Master Ye's father this time. Su Jie was flabbergasted. Her scalp went numb and her heart was on tenterhooks. Who is of this woman? He, of course. Everyone had different expressions, but most of them didn't look too good. On one hand, they didn't expect Yi Haochen's charm to be rebuffed by this girl. On the other hand, they were shocked by Qing'e's terrifying strength. She sent someone flying with one slap. How terrifying was her strength? Was she still human? She was practically a female King Kong. How dare you provoke Master Kang's wife, he? Only Han Yenner gloated and shrugged, saying, serves you right. Zhao Xueqing angrily turned around and walked to the door of the bar. As if they felt the terrifying murderous intent, the few people blocking her retreated, not daring to stop her. Suddenly, she turned around and stared at Yi Haochen. If you dare say another word about him, I'll kill you. Her voice was cold, like the sound of a sword. Tisk, Qing'e is still very protective of me. Jiang Tian, who was at the door of the bar, saw this scene and his heart was filled with tenderness. He was too lazy to come in. Young Master Yi, how's the situation? Do you want to go to the hospital? After Zhao Xueqing left, everyone came to their senses and helped Yi Haochen up, asking with concern. Yi Haochen was bleeding from his mouth and his molars were loosened. However, Qing'e had used her strength and it was not a big deal. At this moment, the humiliation he felt was far greater than the pain. He suddenly stood up and pushed everyone aside. He said angrily, Han Yen, which room are she and her husband in? Speak. The presidential suite on the top floor. Han Yen didn't hide it and said expressionlessly. Since Yi Haochen wanted to court death, then Yi Haochen might as well give him a thorough death. Young Master Yi, let's not be calculative with a girl. Her husband is not easy to deal with. Mai Shilong probably didn't want to make a big deal out of it and tried to persuade him with a smile. After all, although Master Kong was powerful, this was Singapore. And this time, Singapore had received the Zhonghai delegation with high standards. It was likely that Singapore would send a large number of police officers to control Jiang Tian. For Jiang Tian, it would be very troublesome. They're nothing. If I don't kill this bitch today, I'll take his surname. Yi Haochen shouted angrily, Su Yuhang, are you stupid? Why didn't you stop him just now? Young Master Yi, I think that's your old flame. It was like a fight between a couple. I'm really... Su Yuhang smiled and said uneasily. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's take care of them together. Yi Haochen rushed upstairs in a huff. Brothers, go to the presidential suite on the top floor. Young Master Yi was beaten up. Su Yuhang took out his walkie-talkie and said something. Jiang Tian had just entered the room and chatted with Qing'e for a while to figure out Yi Haochen's background. Suddenly, with a bang, the door was kicked open. Surrounded by 7 or 8 bodyguards in black, Yi Haochen, Su Hang, Wang Quan, and the other young masters marched straight in. They looked down at Jiang Tian and his wife like ferocious tigers intimidating little white rabbits. The other rich young masters crowded in the corridor outside the door to cheer for Yi Haochen. At the same time, they wanted to see Yi Haochen torture this unfortunate couple. "You dare to kick my door? You've got guts." Jiang Tian sipped his red wine and looked coldly at the 3 people who didn't know what was good for them. "Brat, your wife just hit young Master Yi. You better kneel down and apologize to young Master Yi. Otherwise, you'll get it." Wang Quan said angrily. "Do you know who young Master Yi is? He's Yi Cheetah's grandson and Mayor Ye's son. How dare you hit him? You really don't know what's good for you." Su Yuhang clenched his fists and twisted his neck. Suddenly, a murderous aura surged out. He gritted his teeth and sneered evilly. "Do you know that our delegation is an important guest of Singapore? We can even talk to Mayor Yi and to the Prime Minister of Singapore. One phone call from us and your wife will go to jail for 8 to 10 years. You can try." Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. "Jiang Tian, is it? A spoiled brat from Jinling dares to challenge young Master Yi? You're asking for it." Su Jie crossed her arms and said with disdain, "How about this? Let Qing'er go to young Master Ye's room and have a good chat to resolve the misunderstanding. Young Master Yi is not an ordinary person. He has a big heart. I don't think young Master Yi will hold it against you." So, Jiang Tian is from Jinling. Meanwhile, Han Yenno, who had been staring at Jiang Tian for a long time, suddenly felt a jolt in her heart. Could he be the legendary Master Kong of Jinling? She suddenly thought of a possibility and her heart skipped a beat. "Su Jie." Zhao Xueqing was so angry that her face turned pale. It seemed that Yi Haochen's coveting of her had something to do with Su Jie. Su Yuhang, Wang Quan, Yi Haochen. These 3 families are powerful enough to dominate the entire Zhonghai and even the entire Yangtze River Delta. How can a spoiled brat like you compare with them? Some of the rich young masters looked at Jiang Tian with sympathy, while others looked at him with mockery. That was the tragedy of the week. He couldn't even protect his wife when she was being harassed. He might even have to send his wife out to spend the night with her. Yi Haochen lit up a cigarette and started to smoke. He was silent, but his heart was filled with joy. What will he do? Will he give Qing'er to me with a face full of humiliation and unwillingness? Or will he jump up and be beaten up by Su Yuhang? But if he makes a move, then he's done for. Su Yuhang is not an ordinary person. He retired from Battle Dragon and has the cultivation of the peak of Iron Body. Yi Haochen, right? In my opinion, he's just a piece of trash. Under everyone's complicated gaze, Jiang Tian slowly stood up and said, "How dare you touch my woman? You must be tired of living." "I'll do it." Qing'er rubbed her hands together. Yo, you're really shameless. Young Master Yi has already given you a chance. If you continue like this, don't blame us for being rude. Wang Quan said with a grim smile. "Forget it, I'll do it. Beating up this kind of trash will dirty your hands." Jiang Tian slowly stretched out his jade-white palm, looked at Wang Quan who was smiling proudly and sneered, "I hope after I break your limbs, you can still smile so brightly." Before his voice fell, Jiang Tian stepped forward, grabbed Wang Quan's arm, and gently twisted it. Crack! A hair-raising bone-breaking sound was clearly heard. Wang Quan's arm was broken like a hemp pole, bent in a strange arc, and blood flowed out. What? Everyone was stupefied as they watched all of this with their mouths agape. Even Yi Haochen was shocked and took a step back. That was Wang Quan. Among the many young masters in Zhonghai, his influence was ranked in the top 10. Moreover, he was a member of the legal profession. His family held important positions in the public security, procuratorial, and judicial field. If an ordinary person touched him, they would be sent to prison and sentenced to 8 to 10 years. Ugh. Wang Quan reacted at this time and let out a hoarse scream. He stumbled backward and knocked over the wine cabinet. A few bottles of red wine smashed on the ground and smashed into pieces. A strong wine aroma wafted through the air. He looked at Jiang Tian with a horrified face and said with a trembling voice, You dare to hit me. He couldn't believe that the other party would hit him. One must know that Wang Quan had been in Zhonghai for so many years, and could be said to be famous in the entire Yangtze River Delta region. Many financial giants and tycoons had to avoid him. Even when facing a top martial arts family like Jiang Ziyi family, no one would dare to touch him. Chapter 325. However, Jiang Tian had directly broken one of his arms because of a disagreement. This was something that he did not dare to believe. This scene also shocked everyone. Jiang Tian actually attacked Wang Quan so directly, which made them unable to come back to their senses, and did not react for a long time. Su Yuhang, who was diagonally facing Jiang Tian, suddenly narrowed his eyes. Jiang Tian's move just now was too straightforward, breaking someone's arm like it was a game. His strength was already far beyond ordinary people. Could he be a martial artist? Su Yuhang was skeptical. However, he had yet to react. A mere ant dares to be disrespectful to me. You're really tired of living. Jiang Tian had already stepped forward again and said coldly, I said I would break your limbs. You're still lacking a bit? Like an eagle catching a chick, he grabbed Wang Quan and gently twisted his right hand again. With a crack, the crisp sound of bones breaking rang out again, which made one's hair stand on end. Wang Quan's other arm also hung down like a dead snake. How can you be so ruthless? Wang Quan's face was filled with fear at this time, looking at Jiang Tian with a terrified gaze, as if the person in front of him was a great demon god. He stumbled and fell to the ground, letting out an earth-shattering howl, rolling on the ground in pain. You're a lunatic. How can you be so heavy-handed? Su Jie was even more horrified as she pointed at Jiang Tian and said angrily, Stop it, do you know who you're beating? Of course I know. Jiang Tian's feet did not stop as he lazily closed in on Wang Quan. Don't come over. Stop it. My father is Wang Tianhe, my grandfather is Wang Zhangping. Wang Quan screamed miserably, his face as pale as paper, his hair disheveled, his face covered in blood, and his legs moving backward. He even suspected that Jiang Tian would not hesitate to kill him. Sorry, I've never heard of it. Since you dare to provoke me, you'll have to pay the price. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Stop. Su Yuhang roared. He was so angry that his eyes were about to crack. However, Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to him and stomped down again. The power of his kick was so terrifying that even a piece of granite could be shattered into countless pieces. Suddenly, with a shrill scream and the crisp sound of bones breaking, Wang Quan's calf was bleeding and bent back in a shocking arc. White bone stubble pierced through his skin and was exposed. Moreover, it was definitely a comminuted fracture. Even a deity would find it difficult to treat it. Everyone present was dumbfounded. He didn't hesitate to break Yi Haochun's arms and legs. He didn't show any mercy to Yi Haochun at all. Moreover, this was Wang Quan, one of the top 10 young masters in Zhonghai. Seeing this scene, Su Yuhang's face turned red with anger. He said angrily, Your Excellency is too ruthless. Do you want him to spend the rest of his life in a sickbed? Yeah. Jiang Tian put on a matter-of-fact face and said lightly, So many good men from the Zhonghai Police Bureau and you, a former member of the Battle Dragon Special Forces, want me to do the same, don't you? Why can't you accept it when it's your turn? You know who I am? Or you? Su Yuhang was shocked. The Battle Dragon Special Forces was the trump card of the military. Most of their missions were top secret. Therefore, their identities were kept a secret. Even though Su Yuhang had been retired for more than 3 years, no one had the right to decrypt his files except for the first, second, and political commissar. But who was this person? It was strange that he could find out who he was. I am very disappointed in you. It is a disgrace to the Battle Dragon Special Forces to have a soldier like you. Jiang Tian didn't bother to pay attention to him and stomped on Wang Quan's calf again. How dare you? Su Yuhang couldn't sit still this time. Su Yuhang was responsible for the security of this visit. It could be said that he had seriously failed in his duty when Yi Haochun was beaten and Wang Quan's arms and legs were broken. At this time, how could he show mercy? Boom. He stomped on the ground and the solid wooden floor cracked inch by inch. Amidst the flying sawdust, he pounced out like a ferocious tiger and smashed his fist towards Jiang Tian's back. With this punch, the sound of sonic booms could be heard incessantly. A cold fist wind swept out in all directions, making it difficult for people to breathe. They all subconsciously held their breaths. Everyone felt their faces being cut by the fist wind. There was even a serious feeling of suffocation. Who is this guy? What a terrifying punch! Countless people screamed in their hearts. Yi Haochen, who knew Su Yohang's true background, had a sinister smile on his face. This is a punch from a Battle Dragon Special Forces expert. Even if Jiang Tian has some skills, he's just an amateur. How can he be a match for such a professional? Jiang Tian didn't stop. He kept his word and broke Wang Quan's last leg. Then he leisurely turned around and slapped Su Yohang's face. Slap. Boom. Su Yuhang was like a baseball that had been sent flying. He flew more than 10 meters and crashed heavily into the wall behind the TV. Even after smashing the LCD TV into pieces, his momentum didn't stop. He also crashed into the wall until it cracked inch by inch and sank into a large pit. Only then did he powerlessly slide to the ground and sit down. "Let's go!" Su Yuhang roared angrily. "Take him down!" 7 or 8 bodyguards roared and pulled out their batons. They came from all directions and smashed towards Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian sneered and punched and kicked. Bang, bang, bang. In the blink of an eye, everyone fell to the ground and lost their ability to fight. Who are you?" Su Yuhang sat against the wall, clutching his chest. His eyes were full of shock and disbelief. The bodyguards he brought with him were all masters of the Guard Bureau. 2 of them were even martial artists of the Iron Body State. However, they were no match for Jiang Tian. Yi Haochen was indeed the Prince of Zhonghai. Even at this moment, he was still calm. He gave Su Jie a wink and called an ambulance to send the injured to the hospital. "Call the police. I don't believe that we can't take care of this maniac," a tycoon said with a cold smile. "Hold on," Han Yenner said. "Yenner, what do you mean? Why are you siding with a country bumpkin from Jin City?" A tycoon glared at her and said coldly, "Don't embarrass yourself." Han Yenner furrowed her brows and said, "You are no match for Master Kong of Jin City." "Isn't that right, Master Kong?" Han Yenner looked at Jiang Tian and gave him a flirtatious smile. "What? He is Master Kong of Jin City?" Many tycoons were shocked. Zhonghai was a first-tier city in Huaxia. It was a financial center and an economic hub. Even the secretary of Zhonghai had access to the central government bureau. The tycoons in Zhonghai made up 5 of the top 10 richest people on the Forbes list. Zhonghai's status was second only to Yanjin, and it was even higher than Yangcheng. In the eyes of many tycoons in Zhonghai, Jin City was a small place that was not worth mentioning. It was just a provincial capital. Therefore, although the Jiangsu province, Jiangxi province, and Zhonghai were all located in the Yangtze River Delta region, they didn't pay much attention to Jin City. They only heard that there was a Master Kong in Jin City who had defeated the Nye family and helped the Medicine King group and the Jiang family rise to power. However, they didn't know what Master Kong looked like or what he was capable of. "What? You are Master Kong of Jin City?" Yi Haochen was also shocked. He looked at Jiang Tian incredulously. For the first time, he realized that Jiang Tian, whom he had treated as an ant, was actually a giant beast. At this moment, he finally understood some of the puzzling information that he had previously investigated. For example, why did a small company like Zhao's pharmaceutical company come up with such a powerful product called skin toner? Why did Zhao's pharmaceutical company get such a huge order and sell it to the Medicine King group at a price of 1 billion? He also knew that the Jiang family had defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. Even Fang Zhanbua, the most powerful financial magnate in Hong Kong, had been beaten to a pulp. Jiang Tian was the instigator and manipulator of that battle. Therefore, he was far more powerful than Yi Haochen. "Yes, I am. So what?" Jiang Tian picked up a glass of red wine from the table and took a sip. No wonder he had the confidence to ignore young Master Yi and young Master Wang. For a moment, everyone present looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief, their eyes filled with shock. He was a tycoon who had dominated Jin City and crushed the Nie family, Qin family, and the Sun family. Even though they lived in Zhonghai, they had heard all kinds of rumors about Master Kong. Rumor had it that he had even subdued Su Jinlei, a martial arts grandmaster of Jinling. Every rumor had it that Grandmaster Jiang was a peerless tyrant who could swallow 10,000 li like a tiger. However, they had never thought that he would be such an ordinary young man. He didn't look like a tycoon who dominated Jin City. No wonder Mai Shilong and Han Yen were so eager to please him when they ran into him at the airport. Su Yuhang and a few other powerful fighters from the Zhonghai Guard Bureau looked at Jiang Tian in fear. He had dared to fight with the Master Kong of Jin City. If he hadn't shown mercy, he would have been killed. No wonder Zhao Xueqing didn't care about Yi Haochen. Her husband is so powerful. The Medicine King Group is worth hundreds of billions. How could Yi Haochen compare? By then, Su Jie's look at Zhao Xueqing had changed. The sympathy and disdain had disappeared and were replaced by envy and shock. At least in terms of wealth, Yi Haochen was no match for the crown prince of the Jiang family. Grandmaster Jiang, I've offended the expert this time. I apologize to you. Yi Haochen suppressed the shock in his heart and saluted. I was worried that Qing'er was not doing well. That's why this misunderstanding happened. Misunderstanding? Jiang Tian's shout was like a sudden clap of thunder, and it shocked everyone present. Even an idiot would know that this was a compromise. Yi Haochen had already given in. Did he want to escalate the conflict? Chapter 326. Jiang Tian looked at him with a playful smile and said, Yi Haochen, you know better than me whether it's a misunderstanding or not. You know better than me what kind of dirty thoughts you have in your heart. Yi Haochen's face went blank. Anger slowly gathered in his heart, but he hid it well. Jiang Tian sipped his wine and said leisurely, Yi Haochen, now that you've lost your men, do you regret messing with me? Although Yi Haochen had suffered a loss, his aura was not weak at all. Instead, he smiled coldly, and then his face darkened as he laughed sinisterly. Jiangdan, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect you to be so skilled and have such a powerful background. But in this world, you can't do anything just because you have money. I'm telling you now, you're in danger. I'm in danger? I would like to hear the details. Jiang Tian looked at him with interest and said with a faint smile. Wang Quan's family. His father is Wang Tianhe, the founder of the famous Tongxin law firm in Zhonghai. His grandfather, Wang Jiangping, retired from his position as the president of the Zhonghai High Court, a second-class judge, and a member of the Judicial Committee. But his influence is still there. Many lawyers and judges in the country are his disciples. How do you think the Wang family will deal with you after you beat his only grandson? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked. Zhonghai was a first-tier city. The president of the Zhonghai High Court was so powerful that he could sit on the same level as the governor of the Zhonghai High Court. With such a background, it was no wonder that Wang Quan and Yi Haochen were called the top 10 young lords of Zhonghai. Oh really? In my opinion, he's just a piece of trash. Jiang Tian said with disdain. Chao Shixiang and Su Province's secretary Yu were on the same level as him. What was a mere Wang family to him? Of course, the Wang family might not be worthy of your attention, but what about the Su family? Yi Haochen smiled mysteriously. Su family? What's Su family? Many tycoons looked at Su Yuhang in confusion. Wasn't he sent by the Guard Bureau to be in charge of security? Did he have a powerful background? Yi Haochen threw out a heavy bomb and sneered. He used to serve in the Battle Dragon Special Forces of the Supreme Staff Department. He is now the deputy captain of the Silver Fox Special Forces of the Jinling Military Region. He is a lieutenant colonel before the age of 30. The smile on his face grew wider and wider as he proudly said, his father is the second most important person in the Zhonghai Garrison Force. Major General Su is one of the top 5 people in the Jinling Military Region. What? He is Silver Fox's vice captain. His father is Major General Su. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Even Han Yen and my Shilong felt uneasy. I didn't expect Su Yuhang to have such a powerful background. I'm a lieutenant colonel, and my father is a major general. With such a powerful background, it's very likely that he will be promoted to a general in the future. I didn't expect young Master Su to have such a powerful background. Everyone's face was filled with awe, and they were secretly speechless. Even my Shilong and Han Yen looked worried. Wang Quan and Su Yohang's background was too powerful. Even if Jiang Tian dominated Jinling City, it was enough to make him suffer. Not to mention that Yi Haochen was the instigator behind all this. Plus, who could stop Yi Haochen? The Yi family was one of the top families in Zhonghai. His father was the mayor of Zhonghai, a first-tier municipality. He had a high chance of entering the central government bureau in the future. Not to mention that Yi Cheetah was a super big shot. It could be said that the Yi family was worlds apart from the Nye family and the Chen family in Jinling City. Even the Tang family, the Bai family, and the Tai family in Lingnan paled in comparison. Not to mention that the Jiang family had only risen for a few days, and their core member was only Jiang Zhixing, a government official. The gap was too big. At this time, the ambulance arrived. Everyone made way for the medical staff to carry Wang Quan and a few seriously injured people away. Yi Haochen, is this your trump card? Jiang Tian looked at him with a face full of mockery, and said calmly and slowly, in your eyes, these are enough for you to rely on, but in my eyes, it's just something that can be destroyed with a single punch. Yi Haochen was slightly stunned, then said disdainfully, Jiang Tian, you're really arrogant. Do you know that if this was in Huaxia, you'd already be arrested and imprisoned? Even your family would be affected. You can try. Jiang Tian laughed. You think that if you stay in Singapore and don't return to China, these methods won't work on you? Yi Haochen bit down on the three-character Chunghua, took a deep breath, and then said calmly, but in Singapore, you still can't hide. My father led a business delegation to visit Singapore, and the vice premier personally received him. Even in Singapore, you'll still be brought to justice by the Singapore police. Jiang Tian sipped the red wine and said indifferently, okay, I'll wait for you to arrest me. The day after tomorrow, I'll go to Princess Jenny to play. Use whatever methods you have. Don't hold back. After that, Jiang Tian looked around at everyone and said indifferently, the same goes for all of you. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. It could be said that half of the top tycoons in Zhonghai had joined the delegation this time. Didn't Jiang Tian's words mean that he would become the enemy of the entire upper class of Zhonghai? That was too arrogant and unbridled. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Even a hero can't win against so many people. Jiang Tian didn't even have the confidence to win against the 3 great clans, let alone so many top clans and powers. If each of them took a bite, it would be enough to destroy the Jiang clan. Why aren't you getting out of here? Jiang Tian took a step forward and patted Yi Haochen's cheek. It wasn't a heavy slap, but it was full of humiliation. Yi Haochen's lungs were about to explode. He waved his hand and said, let's go. Then he left in a huff. Damn, Master Kong is so domineering. Someone among the crowd gave him a thumbs up. They were worried that Yi Haochen would hear them, so they didn't dare to speak too loudly, but their admiration and excitement were overflowing. Many people still didn't understand how Jiang Tian could dominate Jinling City, but his arrogance and domineering attitude showed the domineering aura and style of an ambitious and ruthless person. Breaking Wang Quan's 4 limbs without saying a word might be a little reckless, and he might not be able to withstand the upcoming storm. However, just the fact that the Yi clan, the Wang clan, and the Su clan treated him as an opponent, a mortal enemy, was enough for him to be proud of. Alas, it's amazing that he can achieve this, but he's too reckless and impulsive. Doesn't he know that the strong are easy to break? Su Jie sighed and shook her head with a complicated expression. Finally, a trace of mockery appeared at the corner of her mouth. In fact, Yi Haochen coveted Zhao Xueqing, but he didn't have the slightest advantage over her. Jiang Tian directly threw out the identity of Jinling City's Master Kong, and that was enough to make Yi Haochen back off. However, Jiang Tian had severely injured Wang Quan and Xu Heng, offending a lot of big shots in Zhonghai. His actions were too stupid. It was not necessary at all. Who knew that in Jiang Tian's eyes, there was no need to move his feet when encountering such insignificant insects. He could just stomp them to death. I wonder how Grandmaster Jiang is going to deal with the upcoming storm tomorrow. Many people sighed softly. Alas, Yen, what are you laughing at? Seeing Han Yen, staring at the phone with excitement in her eyes, my Shilong was anxious. He pulled her into the room and said anxiously, Master Kong is in trouble this time. Why don't we find him a boat and let him sneak back to Huaxia? Yi Cheetah and Li Xianlong, the Prime Minister of Singapore, have a good relationship with him. He also knew that Jiang Tian had great influence in Jinling City, but this was Singapore. The Yi family was in charge here, and Jiang Tian would not be able to take advantage of them. What could Jiang Tian do to the police in Singapore? Shilong, I didn't tell you about Jiang Tian's true power, Han Yen chuckled and said, if the photos sent by my friends in Singapore are true, then even if Yi Cheetah or Li Xianlong were to come, they would not be able to suppress Grandmaster Jiang. They would only be defeated. What did you say? My Shilong was dumbfounded. The Guo family has been destroyed, and even Grandmaster Wang Chong'an has fallen in the hands of Grandmaster Jiang. Han Yen took out her phone and showed him a blurry photo. In the photo, Li Xianlong was leading all the officials and tycoons of Singapore to bow deeply to Jiang Tian, who was sitting on the throne. Even Guo Lily and many other young talents were kneeling on the ground in worship. Han Yen'er glanced at the shocked Mai Shilong and smiled slyly. See? This is the crowning ceremony of the State Preceptor of Singapore. Master Kong is not only the #1 martial arts grandmaster in Huaxia, but he is also the president of the Chinese Association of Singapore, the State Preceptor of Singapore, and the King of Singapore. Are you serious? Martial arts and spells have such great influence? Mai Shilong still could not believe it. After everyone left, Jiang Tian found that Jiang Wan was sleeping soundly in the suite, so he smiled. He had just used a soundproof talisman, so nothing that happened in the room could be heard in the suite. Just as he was about to go to bed, Jenny knocked on the door and entered. She stared at Zhao Xueqing and said in surprise, Master Kong, is this your wife? She was really shocked. In fact, the Hilton family had a lot of business in Huaxia. She had seen many famous celebrities in Huaxia, but she had never seen such a beautiful Chinese woman. She was like the elves in The Lord of the Rings. She was otherworldly and full of spiritual aura. No wonder Master Kong loved her so much. It seemed that she had no chance. Jiang Tian nodded and introduced the woman to Zhao Xueqing. This is Jenny Hilton, from the Hilton family in the United States. She is in charge of the management of the Guo family's assets. Jenny greets Madame Jiang. Jenny respectfully stepped forward and bowed deeply. Miss Jenny, you are too polite. Please get up. Qing'er quickly helped her up. Jenny smiled and said, Mr. Jiang, let me help you change to another room. There seems to be a fight here just now. Okay, change to another room. Jiang Tian nodded. Jenny immediately asked the staff to open another presidential suite on the top floor and let Jiang Tian and his wife in with Jiang Wan, who was sleeping soundly. After everything was settled, Jenny frowned and said, that Huaxia guy called young Master Yi went to look for my sister. He wants to kick you out of the hotel. Hee, this kid, Jiang Tian shook his head mockingly and said, I think your sister will take care of it. He will be rebuffed. Chapter 327. And don't worry. You're the benefactor of the Hilton family. No one will disturb you. Seeing that it was getting late, Jenny said goodnight and walked out of the room. After Jenny left, the room fell silent. Qing'er tugged at Jiang Tian and said apologetically, Jiang Tian, I'm really sorry. Did I upset you? Why would I be upset? Jiang Tian held his wife's slender waist and smiled. When I was in university, I admired and appreciated Yi Haochen a lot. But I promise you, I didn't have any feelings for him. Qing'er said nervously. Qingya, I can only say that I'm really sorry. Jiang Tian gazed deeply into her eyes and said, at that time, you were all alone and had no one to rely on. But I didn't appear in advance to protect you and help you. This was also the reason why he left some leeway for Yi Haochen. After all, Yi Haochen had helped Qingya before. If he was just a simple lecher like Lu Wangfeng and Li Pengtao, Jiang Tian would have killed him long ago. For Qingya's sake, Jiang Tian didn't kill him. He wanted him to calm down and retreat. This matter would be over just like that. But if he dared to act rashly again, Jiang Tian would definitely kill him. Heh, you appeared in advance to beat me, scold me, and bully me. Zhao Xueqing rolled her eyes at him, but her eyes were full of love. Jiang Tian's words were very simple, but she could feel Jiang Tian's deep apology and feelings for her. This made her heart feel warm and sweet. Ahem. Jiang Tian coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Qingya raised her chin proudly and said with a cute and naive face, but my cultivation is now stronger than yours. If you try to bully me again, I'll beat you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground. Jiang Tian was speechless. This was the truth. Alright, I know you've changed for the better. Besides, my cultivation was taught by Master Kong. Qingya patted Jiang Tian's head, her beautiful eyes rippling, full of emotion, and said with a tender and sweet face. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. He felt that this girl was digging a hole for him. Don't you feel like you're caught in a trap of your own making? You have a fierce wife at home, so you don't dare to go out to find women, right? As expected, Zhao Xueqing said with a smirk. Ahem, comrade old Zhao, don't be too proud. I've found the metal and wood spirit cores, and I'm about to reconstruct my physical body and become the Gung metal divine body. That's also one of the 12 immortal bodies. Jiang Tian said with a chuckle. What? You can really reconstruct your physical body? Zhao Xueqing was ecstatic. She pulled Jiang Tian and asked with interest. After chatting for a while, Zhao Xueqing suddenly said with emotion, I really didn't expect Yi Haochen to become such a bad person. The perfect collapse of your former idol, you don't feel good in your heart, right? Jiang Tian could understand Qingya's feelings of loss. This kind of feeling had nothing to do with romance. It was just that, who didn't hope that the white-clothed youth and charming girl of the innocent era could still maintain that beauty and purity when they met again many years later? Most people adhered to the mentality of, I hope you leave for half your life and return as a youth. But the prime of life no longer came, and people were no longer young. Often, those former idols and goddesses couldn't withstand the cruel carving knife of time. They became greasy, sophisticated, and even dirty, just like Mu Yunqing, who he met. The only idol in my heart is my husband, and you will never collapse. Qingya pulled Jiang Tian's hand and walked to the window. She stood side by side with Jiang Tian and looked down at the myriad of lights. Bang! Outside the window, on both sides of the Strait of Malacca, fireworks rose, bright and gorgeous. It's the new year. Jiang Tian held Qingya's small hand and tightened it again. He opened the window, wanting to see more clearly. He didn't expect that on New Year's Eve, in a foreign country, he could also see fireworks. Moreover, he was accompanied by his beloved wife, which made him feel happy and at ease. A breeze blew, raising his beloved wife's hair like a waterfall. Bang bang bang. Clusters of fireworks bloomed, and the flickering light shone on Qingya's peerless and delicate face, making the lines of her face look softer and more soul-stirring. I'm willing to stand side by side with you, watching this picturesque world, even if I have to be the enemy of the whole world. A trace of firmness appeared on Qingya's face, but her eyes were filled with happiness and satisfaction as she murmured. Against the backdrop of the bright fireworks, the Hilton Hotel overlooking the Strait of Malacca stood out among the many high-rise buildings. In the presidential suite on the top floor, in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, a man and a woman looked down at the world, hugging each other tightly. It was a picturesque scene. Miss Paris, I'm Yi Haochen, the company representative of Huaxia Zhonghai's delegation to Singapore, the chairman of Zhonghai Jiqing Investment. After Wang Quan and Su Yuhang were sent to the hospital, Yi Haochen immediately rushed to Paris's office, handed over his business card, and sat down with one leg crossed over the other. He smiled and said, "When Miss Paris opened a branch in Shanghai, she invited me 3 times. You should have some impression of me." He was a bit proud. Although Paris was a world-class socialite, he was known as the Prince of Shanghai, and the Hilton Hotel had 5 branches in Shanghai. How could they not treat a local tyrant like him with respect? "I'm sorry, I really don't remember you." Paris threw the business card into the trash can and said with a mocking smile, "Gah." Yi Haochen was immediately defeated, and his face was full of embarrassment. Was his identity as the Prince of Shanghai not useful in front of Paris? Even if it wasn't useful, you didn't have to throw it into the trash can, right? You're not taking me seriously, right? Did you not have basic business etiquette? Paris stretched and frowned impatiently. "Mr. Yi, what's the matter? Hurry up and say it. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to rest. Just now at the bar downstairs, I was beaten up by your guests. We went to reason with them, and 2 of my good friends were also injured." Yi Haochen's face was gloomy. As the world's best high-end hotel chain, Hilton Hotel can't even guarantee the basic safety of its guests. "I'm very disappointed. Also, I'm a gold card user of your hotel. Every time I go out, I stay at your hotel. My annual expenses are over $1 million USD. There's such a thing? That's too barbaric, too unbelievable. I want to know more about it." Paris already knew everything, but she still picked up the phone and pretended to ask. Yi Haochen smoked with a cigarette in his mouth. He looked on coldly and was very proud. "Jiang Tian, you're just a country bumpkin from Jinling. So what if you're rich? How many times have you been abroad? I'm the gold card user of the Hilton Hotel, and I can fly all over the world. 1 word from me and you'll be kicked out of the Hilton Hotel." "I already know about it. What do you want, Mr. Yi?" Paris put down the antique phone inlaid with jade and ivory. Her beautiful eyes flashed as she asked gently, "Kick him out and put him on the Hilton Hotel's blacklist. Also, your hotel has to be my witness." Yi Haochen thought to himself, "She should know my identity by now." He couldn't help but be arrogant, brimming with the aura of a prince of Shanghai. "Mr. Yi, according to the witnesses, you harassed Ms. Zhao first. Also, you kicked down Mr. Zhang's door and invaded his private property." Paris's well-defined face was suddenly covered with a layer of frost. She slammed the table and smiled coldly. "You're already suspected of breaking the law. Now, I ask you and your delegation to get out of the Hilton Hotel." "What did you say?" "I'm a gold card user of your hotel. Also, we're here on behalf of the Shanghai government. How can you treat your distinguished guests like us?" Yi Haochen couldn't believe Paris's sudden change in attitude. He was confused and angry. "Honorable my ass." Paris cursed. "Bodyguards, kick us all out." Paris didn't waste any time. She slammed the table and shouted, "Sir, please leave." 2 black bodyguards, who were as tall as black towers, rushed in and took Yi Haochen outside. Yi Haochen was humiliated. He could do whatever he wanted in Shanghai and even had some influence in Singapore. However, this was how the other party treated him. He was like a chick in the claws of an eagle. He struggled in vain. He pointed at Paris and said angrily, "Paris, you better not come to Shanghai again. Otherwise, I won't let you get away with it." "Sir, watch your words. You are now suspected of threatening someone." One of the black bodyguards scolded. "Damn it, I was threatening her." Yi Haochen was so angry that he felt dizzy. He was about to yell. As Paris's bodyguard, the black man was also a tough character. He couldn't deal with the spellcaster invited by the Guo family, but he could deal with a spoiled young master from Shanghai. Bang! The punch landed on Yi Haochen's nose. His nose was almost crooked. Blood spurted out of his nose and he fell to the ground. "You are not allowed to hit young Master Yi. You are breaking the law." Su Jie ran over and saw this shocking scene. She was so scared that her face turned pale, and she scolded in a stern voice. "I said, don't threaten Miss Paris." The black bodyguard didn't even look at Su Jie. He raised his leg and kicked Yi Haochen's brow. Immediately, Yi Haochen's head hit the wall again, and blood spurted out. He felt dizzy and the world was spinning. He felt as if 10,000 bees had entered his ears and were buzzing. "Get out!" The black bodyguard kicked Yi Haochun's head again. Yi Haochun screamed in pain. It was as if countless fireworks were blooming in front of his eyes. Ah! Su Jie was so scared that she took a step back. Her face turned pale and she almost peed. She was good at negotiating and scheming in the workplace, but she had never seen such a terrifying scene. "Get out now!" Bang! The black man kicked Yi Haochun in the stomach again. He was in so much pain that his waist bent like a shrimp. He opened his mouth and spat out all the delicious food he had eaten in Singapore. "What a pity! Young Master Yi, don't be afraid. I'll call the bodyguard." "What's the police number in Xingzhou?" Su Jie took out her phone. Her hand trembled and the phone fell to the ground. It happened to fall in front of the black man. She was so scared that she didn't dare to pick it up. "Su Jie, help me out of here. Help me out of here." Yi Haochuan struggled to stand up. He leaned against the wall and moved out. He couldn't see clearly. At this moment he was really scared. He was really worried that if he stayed here for a few more minutes, he would be beaten to death by the black man. Su Jie picked up the phone and helped Yi Haochun out of the hotel. Bang! Bang! With two loud noises, their luggage was thrown out of the door. Chapter 328. By then, the news of Wang Quan's broken limbs and Su Yohang's injuries had already reached the head of the delegation from Singapore, the mayor of Zhonghai, Yi Weihao. Meanwhile, Yi Weihao's room was ablaze with lights. He was in the middle of a discussion with a few tycoons. "Bullshit! Bullshit!" Yi Weihao slammed the table and glared at Manager Hu. "You are the head steward of the delegation. How could you let them drink in a bar? Why did you let them fight? Are you a useless person?" Director Hu tilted his head, and his head was about to be stuffed into his crotch. He felt wronged as well. Yi Haochun liked to flirt with girls. "You know that. He is your son, the crown prince of Zhonghai. How can I control him?" Yi Weihao's hands trembled as he thought about it. This is the first time a delegation has been beaten up since the founding of the People's Republic of China. You guys are creating a new world. How glorious! Next to them, an entrepreneur representative in the electronics industry couldn't stand it anymore and frowned. He frowned and said, "Mayor Yi, this is not Manager Hu's fault. That Jiang guy was too ruthless. He broke Wang Quan's limbs without warning. We didn't even have time to react. Su Yuhang might be good at fighting, but he was no match for his opponent. Besides, he is the Master Kong of Jin City. Who would dare to stop him?" "Wait a minute, what Master Kong?" It was so noisy outside that even Yi Cheetah, who had already fallen asleep, was alarmed. He walked out of the room next door and asked, "Old man, he is the Master Kong who defeated the Nye family and the other two families in Jin City." The boss of the electronics industry said in a deep voice, "Rumor has it that this person is a tycoon of Jinling. Not only were the Nye, Chen, and Sun families beaten to a pulp in the financial war, but they were also wiped out. Oh, the Master Kong of Jin City." No wonder. As soon as these words came out, some of the high-ranking officials and rich people present were shocked and couldn't believe it. Oh, the Jiang family of the Yaowang group. After all, Yi Cheetah was in the economic field. He immediately reacted and waved his hand. "I know about the financial war. Even Fang Zhanbo was defeated by the Medicine King group. But I heard that the one behind it was Qin Jinming from Wall Street. It doesn't necessarily mean that the Jiang family is capable. In addition, what annihilation? That's even more nonsense. It's a false rumor. Is there no law in this world of peace?" "Father, what should we do?" Yi Weihao asked with a frown as he had no experience in dealing with such a thorny issue. "Singapore is a lawful society. How can he run away? Just call the police and arrest him." Yi Cheetah was very calm and said indifferently. He had been through many ups and downs throughout his life. In the end, he was given the title of Imperial Preceptor, an extremely important position. What kind of situation had he not seen? He had once stayed in a cowshed, been criticized, and had also attended a meeting with Deng Gong. He had even been warmly received by the chief, so he had seen all kinds of powerful people. He was just a hedonistic young master from Jinling. Why would he care about him? Yi Cheetah's words hit the nail on the head. Everyone nodded in agreement. Old man Yi was the best. No matter how arrogant Jiang Tian was, it was only a small plot of land in Jinling City. Even in Zhonghai, it was useless, let alone in other countries. But now, the Zhonghai political and business delegation was a distinguished guest of Singapore. How could the Singapore police not treat this matter with caution and seriousness? We have a lot of friends here in Singapore. Yi Cheetah said lightly. Take the owner of this hotel, Mr. Hilton, as an example. He invited me to cut the ribbon when he opened a branch in Zhonghai. Yes. No matter how powerful that Master Kong is, he is nothing compared to the old man Yi. That's right. This time, with Elder Yi in charge, he's dead for sure. Everyone immediately flattered, and their panicked minds also calmed down. Mr. Yi, everyone, you have been blacklisted by our hotel. Please leave. Yi Cheetah didn't think much of it. Just as he was about to go to bed, an executive of the hotel walked up to him and said expressionlessly, "What? You want to kick us out? Are you kidding me? We are the visitors from Zhonghai. How dare you kick us out? This is the mayor of Zhonghai. This is the old man Yi." Many tycoons and government officials couldn't believe what they were hearing. Then, their faces turned green with anger. Director Hu, in particular, jumped 3 feet high and said angrily, "How can you treat a guest like this? Do you know who we are? I'm going to file a formal complaint against you to the embassy and file an international lawsuit to defend our rights." The hotel executive wore a smile on his face, but there were needles hidden in his words. "I know the identity of everyone present here. The reason why everyone here is blacklisted is because your delegation gathered in our hotel and injured people. You're even suspected of murder. Of course, we welcome you to use the law to defend your rights." Everyone was speechless. This was serious. However, it was Chinese New Year's Eve. There were many tourists in Huaxia. All the hotels were fully booked. Where were they going to book a hotel at this hour? Were they going to sleep on the streets? Yi Cheetah's face darkened. He felt a little embarrassed. He was just bragging about his friendship with the Hilton Hotel a moment ago. Then he was kicked out. As for whether or not the visitors were intentional, that is not up to you to decide. He chuckled and said, "Call your general manager here. Or ask Mr. Hilton to talk to me. Tell him that I am Yi Cheetah, an old friend of his from Huaxia University." "I am sorry, Mr. Yi." This order was also given by Ms. Paris Hilton. "Please cooperate with us. Don't make things difficult for me," the executive said with a sour face. Yi Cheetah was so angry that he almost fainted. He had been to the White House, but now he was being kicked out of the Hilton Hotel. It was humiliating. "Miss Paris only gave me 3 minutes. She doesn't want to see you in the hotel room." The executive raised his wrist and looked at his Vacheron Constantin watch. He smiled bitterly and said, "Then I have no choice but to enforce the order." With a gentle wave of his hand, a dozen bodyguards swarmed in and dragged them outside. "Don't touch me. We can walk on our own." Yi Cheetah was so angry that his face was ashen. His whole body was trembling. He put his hands behind his back and walked out of the door. "Why can't we stay here? We already paid in advance. We are beating up Jiang Tian. He is from Huaxia. What does it have to do with you? Mind your own business." A few rich and powerful officials were still reluctant and wanted to argue. Yi Weihao suppressed his anger and gritted his teeth. Go. Is this the only hotel in Singapore?" He reprimanded through gritted teeth. "If this place doesn't want us, there will be other places for us." He supported Yi Cheetah and walked out of the door. The rich and powerful officials could only carry their luggage and follow with dejected faces. "Go! Remember, you are on our blacklist. Our hotel does not welcome you." Many of the hotel staff waved their hands to chase them away as if they were annoying flies. "My medicine bottle." Yi Cheetah was so angry that he felt dizzy. He clutched his chest in pain and almost had a heart attack. He was an extremely powerful official and was known as the Imperial Preceptor. He had great influence in Huaxia's economic field. His words and actions could affect national policies and the fate of industries. In the past, no matter where he went, the feudal officials and Forbes tycoons treated him with respect as if he was their teacher. But today, in the small Singapore, he was chased away like a stray dog. It was really too infuriating. "Grandpa, Dad, what's wrong with you?" Yi Haochen walked over and asked in surprise when he saw a group of people walking out of the hotel. "You did it, and now you're being chased out," Yi Weihao said angrily. "It's not my fault. They started it. I just wanted to have a drink with my old classmate," Yi Haochen explained bitterly. "Xiaohu, hurry up and book a hotel. Look at the time. We still have a meeting tomorrow," Yi Weihao urged impatiently. He couldn't be bothered with these details. "I'm calling now." "Don't worry, Mayor Yi," secretary who was sweating profusely. He smiled pitifully. A group of people gathered at the fountain square in front of the hotel. They looked like stray dogs. Against the backdrop of the gorgeous fireworks, they looked even more desolate. The hotel's security guard came over and warned them seriously, "Gentlemen, please walk outside. This is still our hotel's private property." His gaze was as if he was looking at a third-world refugee. Yi Cheetah was so angry that he almost fainted. Secretary who made a round of phone calls but couldn't find a single room. After all, tourism in Singapore was very popular around the Chinese New Year. Previously, they had rejected the Singapore government's offer of an official hotel. It was not appropriate to contact the Singapore government at this time. It was already past midnight. That scene was truly one where one could neither go up nor down. It was truly an awkward situation. They didn't want to stay in hotels that were too shabby. In the end, a boss had a villa in Singapore with dozens of rooms. Everyone decided to stay there. Looks like we still have to work hard. The road to recovery is long and arduous. The hotel didn't provide a shuttle car. Yi Cheetah sat in the smelly taxi and lamented. "This reminds me of the mocking eyes of the Russians when I was studying at Moscow State University." Yi Haochen didn't sleep the whole night. He kept asking for information about Jiang Tian through the intelligence network. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Su Jie reported that Wang Quan's family had arrived. After all, Yi Haochen was the cause of this incident. He quickly borrowed a car from the tycoon and drove to St. Mary Hospital. Intensive care unit. Wang Quan's father, the #1 lawyer in Zhonghai, Wang Tianhe, stood in the corridor and looked at Wang Quan in the ward. On the bench next to him, Wang Quan's mother and girlfriend were sobbing uncontrollably. Wang Quan's grandfather, Wang Pingjiang's face was ashen. He sighed. They spent a lot of money to charter a plane to fly here. After all, Wang Quan was seriously injured. During the operation, he almost died on the operating table. "Tiana," the doctor said. "Wang Quan's life can be saved, but he can only spend the rest of his life in a hospital bed. That brat surnamed Jiang was too ruthless. That's simply inhumane and lawless." Wang Quan's mother cried bitterly as she spoke. Wang Tianhe didn't say anything for a long time. His face was so gloomy that it felt like a storm was coming. Chapter 329. Yi Haochen said with a pained face, "Uncle Wang, this is all because of me. The Yi family will not stand by and do nothing." Wang Tianhe was indeed the #1 lawyer in Zhonghai. Even when his son was beaten up, he did not lose his composure. He patted Yi Haochen's shoulder and said, "Little Yi, it's not your fault. That Jiang guy is too arrogant. He actually beat my only son so badly. It seems that he wants to fight to the death with our Wang family." Yi Haochen nodded and said, "My dad has already sent a message to Secretary Fan of Su Province. I think Secretary Fan will not let the Jiang family off so easily." "Oh, even Brother Weihao has been alerted. That's good," Wang Tianhe said with a hint of joy. Yi Weihao was a high-ranking official. His words carried a lot of weight. Even Secretary Fan of Su Province had to give him face. "This time, I will make sure he dies without a burial place," Wang Tianhe said with a face full of hatred. At the side, Wang Quan's grandfather, Wang Pingjiang, waved his hand and said, Wei Hao used his connections on his side, but we can't just let it go. Let Yi Baosher do it. Right, Yi Baosher? When Yi Baosher was mentioned, Wang Tianhe's face lit up. When I was studying at Harvard's Kennedy School of Political Science, he was a visiting scholar there. We have always been good friends. He is now the #1 lawyer in Singapore. Even the Singapore Police Department has hired him as their legal consultant. Yes, Xiao Yi came to Huaxia to handle some international cases involving Singapore. I have also helped him. Wang Pingjiang nodded. Like a confident Mr. Zhuge, he said coldly, I heard that Mr. Jiang is very popular in Jinling, but this is Singapore. No matter how powerful he is, he won't be able to show off his skills here. This time, he has met the king of hell. Yi Haochen's face darkened as he walked out of the ICU. Secretary Fan and his father, Yi Weihao, were not in the same faction, but in order to kill Jiang Tian, his father had actually asked for Secretary Fan's help. After all, the favor of a feudal official was not something that could be easily used. However, he had heard that even Secretary Yu of the Su Province's Political and Legal Affairs Committee was very close to the Jiang family. Now, in the entire Su Province, only Secretary Fan could suppress the Jiang family. No matter how high the price was, he could only beg him. Right, where's Su Yuhang? Is he all right? Yi Haochen turned to look at Su Jie. Su Yuhang was examined. He's fine, but his father seemed to have scolded him. He said something about being the martial arts consultant of the Battle Dragon clan and the #1 grandmaster on the divine list. Su Yuhang was also taken away by him. I don't know if he'll go back to the mainland, Su Jie hurriedly reported. What do you mean? Why didn't you find out, stop him, and report to me? Yi Haochen glared at Su Jie. Su Jie was so scared that she broke out in cold sweat. She forced a wry smile and said, He left in a hurry. I didn't have time to ask or report to you before he left with his family. Oh, then forget about it. Yi Haochen shook his head gently. Even without Su Yuhang's presence, the officials of Singapore were enough to deal with Jiang Tian. He seemed to have said that he was going to play on the Princess Jenny tonight, but he didn't know that it was also his turf. There were also important officials of the Singapore government and many tycoons of Zhonghai attending the party. Even the tycoon of Jiangxi province, Yi Wudao, was coming. When the time came, that place would be his turf. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, there was no way he could turn the tables. Jiang Tian and Qing'er spent the night in bed and woke up at noon the next day. Accompanied by the Hilton sisters, they went to a few famous attractions in Singapore and bought some fun things for Jiang Wan. On the morning of the third day, Jiang Tian taught Qing'er the sonic attack of the 9 phoenix cries while playing the white ape-bone zither. In fact, the sonic attack was not a top-tier skill. However, Jiang Tian knew that Qing'er loved to play the zither, so he taught her a thing or two. However, Qing'er's ability to learn the sonic attack was terrifying. After she played the zither, her sonic attack was extraordinarily powerful. Mr. Jiang. While the two were playing the zither, a knock came from the door. You are. Jiang Tian opened the door and saw an unfamiliar middle-aged man in his 30s standing outside the door. He couldn't help but frown. Oh, I am He Jun Yi from the He family of Singapore. Please forgive me for my sudden visit. The middle-aged man was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a powerful aura around him. He family? Who is Mr. He Zhongxiao to you? Jiang Tian seemed to have realized something and asked softly. So Mr. Jiang has heard of my father. That's great. He Jun Yi was elegant and graceful. He was delighted when he heard Jiang Tian's words. I have heard of Mr. Jiang's Medicine King Group. My He family has always wanted to cooperate with Mr. Jiang to act as the agent for these few products. A trace of excitement could be seen on his face as he said, Mr. Jiang, you should know that our He family is one of the top 4 families in Singapore. The He family's Baoshan Hall is famous in Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and even the entire Southeast Asia. If our He Baoshan Hall acts as the agent for your company's products, you will definitely be able to sell them all over Southeast Asia. Oh, I see. Jiang Tian smiled. He Jun Yi's eyes were burning with greed. He smiled eerily and said, Besides, Mr. Jiang, the prices of your medicines are too low. I think we should use hunger marketing to sell them in limited quantities and find celebrities to endorse them. We can make them into luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. By then, we can expect to make tens of billions of profits a year. By then, we will split the profits 30% and 70%. What do you think? Just contact the Medicine King Group. I don't care about this. Jiang Tian nodded disinterestedly and was about to close the door. He Zhongxiao had attended the Grand Preceptor's coronation ceremony a few days ago. He kowtowed to Jiang Tian as if he was an idol. However, He Zhongxiao only brought 3 of his sons with him. He didn't bring He Junyi with him. It seemed that He Junyi was not even qualified to meet the Grand Preceptor. If the Medicine King Group wanted to cooperate with the He family, they only needed Yi Ziwei to show up and He Zhongxiao would have to greet them personally. How could it be He Junyi's turn to talk to Jiang Tian? How could he have such qualifications? Seeing that Jiang Tian wouldn't even let him in, He Junyi's smile turned bitter. His eyes turned cold as he said in a strange tone, "Mr. Jiang, do you know that you are in big trouble now? I have to save you." What trouble? Jiang Tian looked at him curiously. You have offended Yi Haochen of Zhonghai. He has gathered all kinds of forces to bring you to justice. He Junyi lit up a cigarette with a dopeng lighter and smiled maliciously. Yi Haochen and I have a good relationship. If you agree to cooperate, I'll help you mediate and guarantee that you'll leave Singapore safely. What if I don't cooperate? Jiang Tian asked calmly. Then I can't help you. He Junyi shrugged. He decided to scare Jiang Tian. I will even stand on Yi Haochen's side. Jiang Tian sneered as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He said coldly, He Junyi, who do you think you are? How dare you talk about cooperation? You want to split the profits with me? Even your father doesn't dare to talk to me like that. What did you say? He Junyi was stunned. He couldn't believe it. He had heard that Jiang Tian was arrogant, but he didn't expect him to be this arrogant. As the saying goes, a strong dragon can't defeat a local snake. Moreover, the Jiang family's assets were comparable to the He family's. You dare to threaten me? Do you know that I can remove the He family's name from Singapore with one word? Get lost. Jiang Tian's face was full of contempt. He slammed the door. The lower edge of the door was stuck on He Junyi's ankle. He grimaced in pain. I gave you face, but you don't want it. You're courting death. He Junyi stood there in disbelief. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. Although He Junyi was the son of the 4th madam, he was still He Zhongxiao's flesh and blood. He was the director and vice president of many listed companies. But Jiang Tian, a country bumpkin from the mainland, didn't give him face. Since you don't give me face, then don't blame me for turning hostile. I will let you know the consequences of offending me, He Junyi. He Junyi clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His nails dug into his palms as he smiled maliciously. Idiot, which agent doesn't take 10% of the profits? Even so, in order to compete for the agency rights, they still fight with each other. After returning to his room, Jiang Tian angrily ridiculed. This He Junyi was really too greedy. Moreover, he was too arrogant to dare to threaten him. If it weren't for the fact that He Zhongxiao was a kind person, he would have slapped him to death. Hubby, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? Chinger's jade-like fingers played the zither, and a string of tinkling music was heard. The melodious music was like the bright moon shining in the pine forest. It was also like clear spring water flowing on clean stones. Jiang Tian's heart was suddenly clear, and all his worries disappeared. Nothing continued to play the zither. It's so nice. Jiang Tian sat down next to Chinger and said with a smile. When night fell, Jiang Tian and his wife had dinner. They walked out of the Hilton Hotel and went to the beach with Jiang Weiner. Chinger, this is a gift for you. Do you like it? It's going to be the Shui Qing Queen soon. Jiang Tian said with a smile as he pointed at the Princess Jenny cruise ship that was docked at Binhai Bay. It's so beautiful. Hubby, you're the best. Chinger held Jiang Tian's hand and smiled. Wow, what a big ship. Jiang Weiner's eyes were wide open. She was very excited. "Let's board the ship," Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, Paris Hilton smiled and said, "Mr. Jiang, there's one more thing I want to report to you." "Speak." Jiang Tian said calmly. "The Zhonghai government and company representatives are also on this cruise ship today. They are negotiating with the Singapore government about the establishment of the free trade zone." Paris Hilton smiled and said, "The Singapore government booked this cruise ship 3 months ago. I really couldn't reject it at the last minute. They also want to hold a celebratory dinner tonight. However, if Master Kong doesn't want to see them, I can chase them off even if they have to pay some compensation for breaching the contract." "Oh, I didn't know about this before," Jiang Tian smiled and said, "but it's okay. I want to meet them anyway." Soon a speedboat came. Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Weiner's hand and boarded the yacht and then the cruise ship. Little did they know that Yi Haochen and the others had been waiting for them for a long time. A big battle was about to break out. Chapter 330. After 2 days of arduous negotiations, the establishment of a free trade zone between Zhonghai and Singapore had been finalized. Many of the officials and elites of the business world felt as if they had run a marathon. They felt both tired and relaxed. Meanwhile, in the banquet hall of the cruise ship, many officials and tycoons were drinking and chatting merrily. If the free trade zone is built successfully, Mayor Yi will be one of the top contributors. He will be noticed by the central government and be promoted to the position of the #1 official of Zhonghai. Yeah, after the establishment of Zhonghai Free Trade Zone, more countries and regions will join us. It will push the economy of Zhonghai to a new height. Many tycoons and government officials surrounded Yi Haochen like stars around the moon. Their faces were plastered with flattering smiles. This is a pioneering work. Now Mayor Yi is not even 50 years old. He can be said to be young and vigorous. With such outstanding achievements and the support of the old Lord Yi, he will become the secretary of the central government in 5 years. That will be a different story. Everyone displayed their own unique skills, and fancy flattery flew into the sky. Colorful flattery surged like a tide. As the crown prince of Zhonghai, Yi Haochen was already a very powerful man. Even the richest people on the Forbes list treated him with respect. At this moment, the way they looked at Yi Haochen was different. If Yi Weihao could become the secretary of the central government, he would be able to join the central government. That meant that he would be able to climb to the top of the pyramid of power in Huaxia. Everyone felt as if they were witnessing the rise of a new political family. Yi Haochen, on the other hand, was like a golden egg that could transform into a divine dragon of the 9th heaven. This matter isn't set in stone yet. Yi Haochen suppressed his smugness and said with a smile, "I had a meeting with Prime Minister Li Xianlong this morning. He said that we need the approval of the new Grand Preceptor of Singapore." Grand Preceptor? What the hell is that? Why does it sound like a feudal society? Yeah, isn't Singapore a modern country with a legal system? Why does the Grand Preceptor have the final say? Yeah, this is too unbelievable. Many tycoons were perplexed. He is probably a feng shui master. Yi Haochen said lightly, "I have worked in Singapore for many years and I know that Singapore's obsession with feng shui has reached an unimaginable level. Do you know about the Suntec City complex?" We know. Everyone agreed and listened attentively. Yi Haochen held a glass full of champagne, elegantly speaking. When the place first opened for business, the businesses there were dismal. Later, under the guidance of the state preceptor, Master Red Boat, a circular fountain was built that sprayed inward. It is known as the Fountain of Wealth. In Cantonese, there's a meaning of water is money. Spurting inward means keeping the goodies within the family. Since then, the sales of the Suntec City building complex have been smooth sailing, and the merchants have made a fortune. It has now become the most prosperous commercial complex in Singapore. I see. Young Master Yi is indeed knowledgeable, as expected of someone who studied at Singapore National University. Everyone felt incredulous, but they still nodded. A tycoon smiled and added, "There's one more thing. In early 1997, a new subway opened in Singapore. Due to the Asian financial crisis, the economy took a nosedive. At that time, Prime Minister Lee Kuan-yew was so anxious that he asked the state preceptor for help. The state preceptor placed the feng shui diagram in front of Lee Kuan-yew and said that feng shui dragon veins are like this. Now that you have opened a subway, you have forcefully broken the dragon veins. My solution is that every Singaporean citizen must wear a small 8 trigrams. Lee Kuan-yew agreed and immediately carried out the instructions. That's how the current Singapore 1 yuan coin came into existence. He smiled and took out a coin. It really is an imitation of the 8 trigrams. Yes, the whole thing is round, but the hollow edges are in the shape of the 8 trigrams. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Yi Haochen smiled and commented, I don't know if it was the Asian financial crisis that caused the state preceptor's miracle, or if it was the state preceptor's miracle that dispelled the financial crisis. Either way, Singapore's economy recovered and started to prosper. His face was solemn as he said, in short, the state preceptor is a highly respected figure in Singapore. He is also known as the King of Singapore. In the 1980s, it was the Venerable Master Red Boat. In the 1990s, it was Wang Chongyan from the Chinese Society of Singapore. Now, it's the legendary state preceptor Jiang. As everyone chatted, they were all inquiring about this godlike imperial preceptor Jiang. Someone asked, I wonder if the arrogant and despotic Grandmaster Jiang from 2 nights ago dares to come today? Yi Haochen's eyes flashed with disdain. He took a sip of red wine and didn't reply. Yeah, didn't he say that he was coming today? A tycoon holding a folding fan, Boss Fu, sneered. Don't scare him to death. Many political figures are coming today. There are police and even military guards. He should surrender now that he is here. Boss Zhang, who was wearing a jade bracelet at the side, sneered. I bet he would have run back to Huaxia already. A socialite from Zhonghai sneered. Do you think he can run back to Huaxia? If he offended young Master Yi, the leaders of Su province would not let him off the hook. Boss Fu, who was holding a folding fan, said disdainfully. Everyone nodded. Yi Weihao had made it into a free trade zone. How brilliant of a political achievement was that? Zhonghai was the second largest city in Huaxia. It was almost certain that he would become the secretary of Zhonghai. Let's drink. He is just a spoiled brat. Take your time, I am going to the banquet hall to keep my father company. Yi Haochen toasted everyone and then walked into the banquet hall in high spirits. Mr. Jiang Tian and Ms. Zhao Xueqing of Jin City have arrived. Clang, clang, clang. When Jiang Tian appeared on the deck of the cruise ship, a commotion broke out. Many people looked at the boarding gate in disbelief. Everyone's faces were filled with shock, disbelief, ridicule, curiosity, and schadenfreude. There were all kinds of expressions. They had never heard of Jiang Tian's name before. However, after the incident at the Hilton Hotel, everyone in Zhonghai knew about the Master Kong of Jin City. So he is the Master Kong of Jin City? He is so young. I heard that he dominated Lingnan and defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. That's impossible. Not only that, I also heard that the Tang family of Linzhou is very close to him. Everyone's attention was on Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing. Jiang Tian had left many legends in Jin City. He used to be a spoiled brat who was mentally unstable, but he rose to power and became the leader of the underworld in Jiangbei. He defeated the Wei family and the Mo family in Lingnan and shocked many powerful families. Then, he returned to Jin City and defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. All along the way, he was simply advancing triumphantly with irresistible force. His speed was like a rocket, and he was practically invincible. There were many rumors about him. Some said that he was the illegitimate son of a boss in the central government, or that he was adopted by a mysterious sorcerer. Although many people didn't believe it, these rumors were very convincing, and many people believed it. He's just average. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I don't believe it. Boss Fu looked at Jiang Tian, slapped the folding fan in his hand, and shook his head. Boss Fu, if it weren't for him, the Nie family wouldn't have fallen. Nie Zhonghai was burned to death. Nie Zhonghai had dominated Jin City for many years. Even Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu couldn't defeat him. Boss Zhang twirled the jade bracelet in his hand and said with a smile. Boss Zhang, you said it yourself. Even Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu couldn't defeat Nie Zhonghai. How could he? Boss Fu raised his eyebrows. Well, Boss Zhang was speechless. Yes, Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu were both high-ranking officials. However, Nie Zhonghai and the other two families had dominated Jin City for decades. Even these high-ranking officials couldn't do anything about it, let alone this young man in front of him who looked like he was in his early 20s. I want to say that it was just a coincidence. Nie Zhonghai was too arrogant. The higher-ups had their eyes on him for a long time. Since the Jiang family and the Nie family had a grudge against each other, the officials pushed the Jiang family out. Boss Fu waved the folding fan in his hand, as if he was Zhuge Kongming. What do you want to eat? Teppanyaki squid. Eat whatever you want today, you greedy little cat. Jiang Tian pulled a chair over and sat down. He held Jiang Wanner in his arms and fed her the grilled squid on the grill. Cousin, it's delicious. Jiang Wan beamed with joy. Her mouth was greasy. At this time, Director Hu heard the news and came over. He put on a professional posture and frowned. Mr. Jiang, right? I'm sorry, but this is the celebration party of the Zhonghai delegation. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Please leave. Who are you? Jiang Tian looked at him curiously. I am the director of the office of Zhonghai City. I am also the personal secretary of Mayor Yi Weihao. I am also the chief steward of the delegation. Director Hu had an arrogant look on his face. He cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at a beggar. Because Jiang Tian had beaten up the members of the visiting group, Yi Weihao was enraged and scolded him. Now that he had seen the culprit, how could he still hold it in? What a big shot. You scared the hell out of me. Jiang Tian picked up the grilled tuna again, stuffed it into Jiang Wanner's mouth, and sneered without raising his head. Actually, you're nothing more than a horse guard who leads a horse for someone else, a clown who carries a sedan chair and plays the trumpet. You are just a small fry. How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? Dog slave, you're simply courting death. Jiangtan, who do you think you are? Your father Jiang Zhixing was just a divisional official a year ago. These words were too harsh. Even though Director Hu had experienced decades of ups and downs in the officialdom, he was about to explode with anger at this moment. He was so angry that his lips were trembling. His body was shaking uncontrollably. Then he ground his teeth and said with disdain and mockery, "When I went to Jinling on a business trip, your father served me wine, lit cigarettes, and gave me gifts. It was as if he was meeting his own grandfather. He wanted to return the humiliation brought by Jiang Tian 100-fold. He even helped me open the car door. I don't know who is the slave and who is the clown. Well, now he has just been promoted to the office level, and he is only at the peace level. How dare you? You are courting death." Hearing this, Jiang Tian's face suddenly became gloomy. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 331. Jiang Tian was truly enraged. It was fine for others to humiliate him, but Jiang Tian would never allow anyone to humiliate his father. Scram! Jiang Tian did not waste his breath at all, and directly delivered a big slap over. Amidst the blood-curdling screams, Director Hu's mouth was full of blood. He flew out like a dead dog, twitching all over and unable to get up for a long time. Everyone's body quivered, and they were shocked silly. Too arrogant, too arrogant. He actually dared to slap Director Hu's face in public. This was too arrogant and domineering. How dare you hit me? Director Hu got up and covered his swollen face. He was horrified and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. If it wasn't for the fact that we're both descendants of Yan Huang and met in another country, you'd already be dead. Jiang Tian took the wet towel handed over by China as if hitting him would dirty his own hand. He carefully and slowly wiped the non-existent stain on his hand and said with an indifferent expression, "What should we do?" "Don't call the guards. They've all been injured by him and haven't been discharged yet." "Call the police?" "The police won't be here anytime soon. It's best to call the guards on the cruise ship." Just as everyone was at their wits' end, a voice announced, "Miss Paris has arrived." Director Who wiped the blood off his lips and walked over angrily. "Miss Paris, this Jiang guy started the fight today. Also, this cruise ship is rented by the Singapore government. What right does he have to come up here and beat people up? Where are your security guards?" he asked. "Arrest him immediately." Everyone knew that the visiting group was on the Hilton Hotel's blacklist. However, this Princess Jenny was not a property of the Hilton Hotel. They still had the right to use it. Moreover, they were guests invited by the Singapore government. How could Paris dare to offend them? "Get out." Arrogant, despotic, and vulgar. What the barbarian? How dare you beat people up in such a high-class place like the Princess Jenny? You have no manners. Seeing that Paris had arrived, the rich and powerful officials seemed to have found someone to rely on. They all shouted, "Mr. Hu, I'm sorry, but this cruise ship has become Madame Zhang's private property since 3 days ago." The moment Paris opened her mouth, she suppressed all the boiling voices. Private property? Everyone was dumbfounded. It was as if they had been viciously slapped a few times. They were completely dumbfounded. Like a high and mighty princess, Paris looked down at the crowd and smiled faintly. "The Singapore government and you are just his tenants. If Mr. Jiang is willing to pay a few 100,000 XIN new dollars, he can kick you out right now." Gee. Instantly, everyone was dumbfounded. They were like ducks that had been choked by an invisible hand, and they were flabbergasted yet unable to utter a single word. "What? This cruise ship is probably worth at least 1 billion Huaxia dollars. Jiang Tian actually bought it." Everyone present was a wealthy and high-ranking official. They knew the true value of this cruise ship and couldn't help but exclaim. After taking the contract from Iris, Jiang Tian passed it to Zhao Xueqing and smiled. "Chinga, keep it well. This is the ownership certificate. Do you like it?" "Ha, it's fine if it's under your name. Why did you have to put it under my name?" Zhao Xueqing scolded Jiang Tian, but her face was filled with joy. "Birthday present? That's too extravagant." Boss Fu was dumbfounded. He gripped his folding fan so tightly that his knuckles turned white. They were all people with a net worth of billions, but normally, they would grit their teeth and make the decision to spend tens of millions on a cruise ship. But Jiang Tian gave away a cruise ship worth 1 billion just like that. This wasn't a model, it was the real deal. He really didn't care about money. What a country bumpkin. So what if he has some filthy money? Nouveau riche. In the banquet hall, Yi Haochen's face suddenly changed. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass window, his face turned green and white. In the end, he could only curse resentfully. At that moment, he felt really uncomfortable. He couldn't help but recall how he tried to bribe Zhao Xueqing with a villa worth less than 10 million, but Zhao Xueqing retorted. At that time, he thought that his villa with a sea view worth tens of millions was extravagant enough to move Zhao Xueqing. But what about Jiang Tian? He gave him a cruise ship that was worth 1 billion Huaxia dollars. Compared to Jiang Tian's wealth, he was probably like a beggar in Zhao Xueqing's eyes. His smug look made him look like a clown. What kind of luck did Zhao Xueqing have to marry such a good husband? Next to her, Su Jie was also envious and shocked. She muttered in a low voice, dumbfounded. Before this, she had always thought that Zhao Xueqing was born in a miserable family and married poorly. On the other hand, she married a rich second-generation heir and had a high-paying job. She was a little complacent and full of a sense of superiority. But now, a cruise ship that Jiang Tian casually gave to Zhao Xueqing was a fortune that she would never be able to earn in a lifetime, no, 10 or 100 lifetimes. It was unattainable. Okay, Jiang Tian, you're amazing. You're so generous. On the deck, Director Who forced himself to calm down and said with a fake smile, "But I'm not the main person today. But I'm not the main character today. If you can walk out of here in one piece, I'll take this slap for nothing." At that moment, a middle-aged man with an extraordinary aura and an expressionless face walked out of the banquet hall. "Lawyer Wang, you're here." As soon as he came out, many tycoons and officials in the hall stood up and saluted him respectfully. Even director who hurriedly stepped aside. "You're the Master Kong of Jinling?" Wang Tianhe looked down at Jiang Tian and asked. "That's me." Jiang Tian pulled out a tissue and carefully wiped the grease off Jiang Wan's mouth. He didn't even look at Wang Tianhe, as if the grease on Jiang Wan's mouth was 100 times more important than him. "Master Kong, I'm Wang Tianhe, the founder of Zhonghai United Law Firm. I'm also the father of Wang Quan, whose limbs were broken by you." Wang Tianhe couldn't help but be angry. He scolded with a pale face, "I want to ask Master Kong, what kind of grudge do you have with my son? Why are you so cruel to him? Do you have any respect for the law? Do I need a reason to hit him? I've already hit him, what can you do to me? Bite me if you dare." Jiang Tian wiped Jiang Wan's mouth clean with a tissue. Then, with a flick of his hand, the dirty tissue hit Wang Tianhe's face. "Grandmaster Jiang, aren't you being too arrogant? Do you know that even your mother, Madame Zhang Wanqing, wouldn't dare to be so disrespectful to me?" Wang Tianhe was so angry that his whole body trembled and his teeth were almost broken. He could be said to be the #1 civil and commercial law litigator in China. Even those tycoons with billions of assets had to be courteous to him and treat him as a VIP. Coupled with his father's influence, even the officials and secretaries of the provinces and cities had to treat him with caution and avoid him. But at this moment, Jiang Tian didn't put him in his eyes at all. "Hee, Wang Tianhe, who do you think you are? You're not worthy of my Jiang family's respect. I've already been merciful to your son." Jiang Tian picked up the fruit plate and slowly peeled the grapes as he said with an indifferent expression, "Do you think my son isn't miserable enough?" Wang Tianhe was so angry that he almost fainted. He said angrily, "If you don't show mercy, are you going to destroy my Wang family?" "That's right." In the face of Wang Tianhe's harsh questioning, Jiang Tian spat out 2 words with a calm face. As soon as the words came out, the whole place fell into dead silence. Everyone's jaw dropped. They couldn't believe their eyes. No matter how rich the Jiang family was, they were no match for the Wang family of Zhonghai when it came to political influence, especially in the legal field. Especially since this was Singapore, not Jin City. How dare you say that you want to destroy someone's family? This Grandmaster Jiang was a talent, but he was a little too arrogant and conceited. "Mr. Jiang, you are too arrogant. You can do whatever you want in Huaxia, but this is Singapore. Singapore is a society governed by law." At this moment, along with a sarcastic voice, a refined noble young master with a calm temperament walked over lightly. "Oh my God, isn't that He Junyi from the He family of Singapore?" Everyone exclaimed when they saw him. "Yeah, the He family is one of the top 4 families in Singapore. He Junyi and Guochangsheng are also known as the 4 arrogant young lords of Singapore. He seems to know Jiang Tian, and they seem to have a conflict. I don't think Kong Teichu will be able to leave Singapore. He is a local tyrant. How did he get on the bad side of the He family of Singapore?" Everyone whispered to each other. By then, they had realized that Jiang Tian was a troublemaker. He had offended the Yi family, the Wang family, and the Su family of Zhonghai. Now, He Junyi from the He family of Singapore had joined the fray. "Mr. Jiang, I don't know if you regret your rejection of me yesterday." Along the way, He Junyi's aura was huge and unrestrained. When he got close, he looked at Jiang Tiandao with a hideous smile. "Unfortunately, there is no cure for regret in this world. Even if you are arrested, the Jiang family will still beg for my help. By then, not only will I get the distribution rights of your products, but I will also share the patent with you. Do you regret it now? It's not too late to beg for my help. He Junyi, you piece of trash, you ant, you don't know your place. Not to mention you, even your father and grandfather would have to kneel and kowtow to me when they see me." Jiang Tian said with disdain. He Junyi was so angry that he wanted to kick Jiang Tian to death. However, this was a foreign event, so he suppressed his anger and said, "Keep your mouth shut. The Wang family of Zhonghai is going to give you a hard time." As expected, Wang Tianhe cracked a smile and said, "You are wrong, Jiang Tian. Even if you are the tyrant of Jin City, it is just a small place. My Wang family is one of the most powerful families in Zhonghai." His eyes grew darker and darker as he sneered, "Do you know that I can send you to jail for what you just said? I have come prepared this time. I have recorded your words and I will submit them to the court of Singapore and send you to jail." He paused and then turned to the entrance of the banquet hall. He smiled and said, "Mr. Yi, please come out." A middle-aged man wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses sauntered out of the banquet hall. Suddenly, the banquet hall was filled with awe and admiration. "Baosher, why is he here? He is the top lawyer in Singapore. He is the legal consultant of the Singapore Police Department. His family is also the chief judge. Mr. Wang is really something. I can't believe he managed to get Yi Baosher to come here." Even the way they looked at Wang Tianhe had changed. Wang Tianhe cracked a smile and said, "When I was studying at the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics, I often went to Chinatown with Mr. Yi." He couldn't hide his pride. It was an honor to be friends with an internationally renowned lawyer like Yi Baosher. Chapter 332. Jiang Tian is done for this time. How dare you say such things without thinking? Yi Baosher is the one who filed the lawsuit. You should know that Singapore is a society ruled by law. How dare a country bumpkin from Huaxia do whatever he wants here? Boss Fu was like a storyteller, shaking his head as he commented. In the end, he slapped the folding fan on the table. Like a wake-up call, he attracted everyone's attention. Only then did he make the final decision. No matter how capable Jiang Tian is, he won't be able to escape the law. Boss Zhang and the others all nodded, thinking that it made sense. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, he could only do whatever he wanted in Jinlin City. He couldn't even do anything in Zhonghai, let alone in Singapore. "Sir, please come with me to the police station for an investigation." Yi Baosher walked behind Jiang Tian and said in a low voice. "Yi Baosher, is the wound on your face healed?" Jiang Tian turned around slowly and asked with a smile. Jiang Tian was sitting with his back facing the exit of the hall. Yi Baosher didn't get a good look at Jiang Tian's face until he turned around. Suddenly, Yi Baosher felt like he had seen a ghost. He was scared out of his wits. "Jiang, devil Jiang!" he screamed. He was so scared that his legs were cramping. Cold sweat broke out all over his body and soaked his shirt. Singapore was a tropical area. Even though it was winter, the temperature was still around 30 degrees Celsius. However, Yi Baosher felt as if he had been locked in a freezer. He would never forget how Jiang Tian had destroyed the Guo family, kicked over the explosion-proof police car, and destroyed the helicopter with a single slash. He would never forget the scene of Jiang Tian mercilessly stripping Guo Shihai of his life force and lifespan, killing Guo Junfeng and Guo Changxing with a flick of his finger, and slaughtering the Guo clan until rivers of blood flowed. Devil King. In Yi Baosher's mind, Jiang Tian was a demon who killed people like flies, a demon who could swallow the heavens and destroy the earth. What was even more frightening was that Jiang Tian was still fine even after destroying the Guo family. He was leisurely cruising around the bay on a cruise. According to Deputy Commissioner Lee of the police station, the entire government of Singapore had completely submitted to this person. He was reminded to never provoke Jiang Tian again. One man suppressing an entire country. In front of such a godly person, the laws and the rules of modern society were nothing. They were not worth mentioning at all. "Loi Yi, what did you call me? I didn't hear you clearly. Say it again." Jiang Tian looked at him with a smile. "Jia." Yi Baosher hurriedly covered his mouth with his hands. His eyes were filled with terror. In an instant he felt his liver hurt so much. In a moment of desperation, he actually shouted out his impression of Jiang Tian, but it was too unpleasant to hear. Could he even call out the words Great Demon King? At this moment, He was filled with hatred and wished he could slap himself a few times. Yi Baoshi, where did your eloquence go when you were arguing with the crowd in the courtroom? You, Yi Baoshi, had the ability to socialize with people in the circle of rich and powerful officials. What happened to you? My liver hurt so much. In a moment of desperation, he knelt on the ground with a thud and prostrated himself on the ground, wailing, Grandmaster Jiang, I really didn't know it was you. If I knew it was you, I wouldn't have dared to come even if you beat me to death. There was nothing he could do. At this moment, Yi Baoshi really did not know how to express his apology to Jiang Tian and his sincerity in surrendering. Fine, then kneel down. It's okay. Hurry up and leave. I don't want to see you. Jiang Tian waved his hand casually as if he was shooing away a fly. The current Kong Teichu was the reigning Grand Preceptor of Singapore. He could be called the King of Singapore and was on equal footing with the leaders of small countries like Singapore. Yi Baoshi was just a mere litigator. Someone at this level was like an ant. He was too lazy to kill him. Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. Yi Baoshi felt as if he had been pardoned. He ran to a crew member in a panic. Is there a speedboat? It takes 10 minutes to get into the water. Is there a lifebuoy? Lend me one. Hurry up. Under the incredulous gaze of the crowd, Yi Baoshi took a lifebuoy and put it on. Then he flipped over the side of the boat and jumped into the water, disappearing. A few minutes later, he reappeared. He spat out a mouthful of water, and his legs and feet moved quickly. He used the dog paddle style and swam to the shore. He swam very fast and looked back at Jiang Tian with fear on his face from time to time. It was as if the person behind him was not a person, but a great white shark. It was obvious how terrified he was of Jiang Tian. Lawyer Wang, is this what you're relying on? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working very well. Jiang Tian took a sip of juice and smiled at Wang Tianhe, whose expression had changed drastically. Mr. Fu, what do you think is going on? I can't believe Yi Baoshi is so scared. Mr. Zhang squeezed the jade bracelet tightly. He felt that today's drama was too good to be true. First, it was Director Hu who was slapped away by Jiang Tian. Then, Miss Iris came over and gave the final word. Then, the #1 lawyer in Shanghai, Wang Tianhe, invited Yi Baoshi to help him. Then He Junyi, the young master of Singapore, tried his best to persuade Yi Baoshi. However, they were all defeated by Jiang Tian. Mr. Fu was a bit confused. Even though he was well informed, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. He could only frown and say, I've heard that Grandmaster Jiang is a master of sorcery, and Singapore is the most superstitious place. Yi Baoshi has heard of some of his supernatural powers in Huaxia, so it's understandable that he's afraid. Doesn't that mean Grandmaster Jiang has completely turned the tables this time? Mr. Zhang smiled. I don't think so. Old Man Yi hasn't come out yet. Mr. Fu shook his head and said, everyone on the deck was in a state of panic. They all paid close attention to what was going on. Suddenly, the MC announced at the entrance of the banquet hall. Mr. Yi Chita, Mayor Yi Weihao, and Mr. Yi Haochen are here to propose a toast. The entire place was shaken by this voice. Everyone on the deck and at the entrance of the banquet hall rose to their feet and looked over. They saw a tall and handsome young man walk out of a luxurious cabin with the help of an old man in a black suit. Yi Weihao stood beside the old man. Old Man Yi. Old Man Yi is here. Many tycoons and officials at the banquet exclaimed in shock. Even Old Man Yi is here. Look at Huaxia. How many people can stand up to him? Master Kong is in danger. Boss Fu slapped his thigh and laughed mischievously, as if he had expected this to happen. Along the way, Yi Chita greeted everyone and occasionally chatted with people. Every casual sentence he said was a gem, showing his profound learning and international vision. He was worthy of being a renowned scholar. To be able to shake hands with him and chat with him, all the rich and powerful officials were flattered and felt honored. He was a leading figure in the economics field in Huaxia. He was a senior counselor of the government council. He was a scholar who could give lectures to national leaders. It could be said that his words and actions could influence the national policy of Huaxia. He could easily change the future of an industry. Many provincial officials had to greet him respectfully. Old Man Yi, or Professor Yi. Finally, Yichida walked out of the crowd and stopped in front of Jiang Tian. He looked down at Jiang Tian from above. Under the admiring gazes of many people, he said with burning eyes, "Are you the rumored Master Jiang of Jinling?" "Yes, that is me." Even though Yichida was there, Jiang Tian was still calm and collected. He calmly fed Jiang Wan. It was as if the world was not as big as the little girl in his arms. "You are indeed a talented young man." Yichida wasn't angry at Jiang Tian's disrespect. Instead, he sized up Jiang Tian and said, "You are only in your 20s. You are younger than my master students, but you have already made a name for yourself in Jin City. Even though I live in Zhonghai, I have heard of Master Kang's name." Suddenly, he changed the topic. His eyes suddenly turned cold, and a cold light burst out from his eyes. "I have heard that you are a master of martial arts and that you can easily kill people and wipe out their families. Is that true?" "Yes, so what?" Jiang Tian looked up for the first time and his eyes met Yichida's. The moment he saw Jiang Tian's eyes, Yichida's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly felt chills all over his body. Looking at Hua Xia, even the children of the rich and powerful in Yanjin could remain calm in front of him. Most of them seemed as if they were treading on thin ice, and they were trembling with fear and caution. It was even to the extent that their gazes were cowering like quails. However, Jiang Tian's gaze was indifferent, extremely indifferent. It was as if he was a god looking down on ants. In his eyes, it was as if human lives were as worthless as grass. He could kill 10,000 people by himself. There was also a kind of calm domineering aura, as if he could kill all the gods and Buddhas in the sky, tear the sky and break the earth. It was as if he were an emperor who could rule the world and decide the fate of the righteous path. The lines on his face were like the peak of an ancient glacier. Yichida's heart was beating wildly. He had only seen this kind of sharp and terrifying gaze from Taizu, Deng Gong, and a few other founding fathers of the country. "Jiangdan, you've gone too far. Old Lord Yi is a respected person. What's with your attitude?" Wang Tianhe scolded. "What's with your attitude? Old Lord Yi is old enough to be your grandfather. Don't you know the virtue of respecting the old and caring for the young?" Yi Haochen also scolded. Don't think you're so great just because you're dominating Jinling. Grandfather Yi can reach the heavens, he can directly talk to the big shots in the central government. He just needs to casually hand in a report and your Jiang family will be finished." He Junyi said angrily. In a blink, the entire deck was filled with mocking voices. Jiang Tian seemed to be the target of public criticism. Even Mai Shilong and Han Yen were frightened and didn't dare to speak for Jiang Tian. When everyone was criticizing Jiang Tian, Yichida's mind also gradually calmed down. He waved his hands and waited for everyone to quiet down. Then, he looked at Jiang Tian with his hands behind his back and said, "Grandmaster Jiang, for you to have such achievements at such a young age, it can be said that you're absolutely stunning. But you have to understand that the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You should keep a low profile and be kind to others. You shouldn't be making enemies everywhere and fighting like you are now." Yichida assumed the posture of an elder and looked down from above. He raised his voice by an octave and lectured in an imposing manner. "Let me remind you, Hua Xia isn't up to a kid like you. This isn't your territory in Jinlin City and it's not a place where you can do whatever you want." As soon as he finished speaking, the entire deck was silent. Everyone could feel that there was a needle hidden in his words. It could be said that there was a spear in his words, and his killing intent was overflowing. His words were equivalent to a death sentence for Jiang Tian. It meant that he was going to report to the central government and make suggestions to suppress the Jiang family. Chapter 333. Everyone's expression changed drastically, each with different opinions. Sympathy, ridicule, shock, inquiry, and disbelief. Su Jie and the others were even gloating at his misfortune. It seemed that Jiang Tian could no longer turn the tables. He could only admit defeat and even beg for mercy. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian just took a sip of juice and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? How dare you call yourself, old man, in front of me? I think it's more appropriate to call you, old man." What did you say? How dare you insult old Master Yi? Do you know how much old Master Yi has contributed to the economic development of Huaxia? Arrogant. Ignorant. Old Master Yi has worked his heart out for the economic development of Huaxia. He is a meritorious official of the country. As soon as these words came out, it really angered everyone. Everyone cursed and wanted to grind Jiang Tian's bones to ashes to vent their anger. Even Yi Cheetah, who had amazing self-restraint, was so angry that his face was livid. The veins on Yi Weihao's forehead were throbbing. A great trader looks loyal. He looks like a loyal official, but he is a national traitor. Jiang Tian sneered and stood up. "Mr. Yi, may I ask if you are the one who proposed the management reform of Huaxia's state-owned enterprises?" Everyone was suddenly stunned. Master Kang's thinking jumped too fast. He jumped from scolding to academic discussion in an instant. However, wasn't discussing academic matters with Yi Cheetah like showing off in front of Guan Yu? It was the biggest joke in the world. "It's me," Yi Cheetah said proudly. "Enterprises owned by the whole people are facing the problem of the lack of managers. Professional managers will not work hard to achieve good results. Only when the enterprise is privately owned will there be such motivation." Nonsense. Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. In fact, Huaxia's state-owned enterprises are very similar to the listed companies in the United States. Because the listed companies in the United States are public companies, their shares are very scattered. However, in the listed companies in the United States, is there any professional manager who dares to not run the company well? If you don't do well, the shareholders will vote with their feet and ask you to step down. It was not like what old Mr. Yi said. It was natural for the factory directors and managers of state-owned enterprises not to run the company well. But if the company became the manager of the state-owned enterprise, then all the problems would be solved. This is putting the cart before the horse. Jiang Tian's gaze was as sharp as a knife as he looked directly at Yi Cheetah. He said indifferently, "Mr. Yi and everyone, let me make a very simple analogy. A state-owned enterprise was a house owned by every citizen. A housekeeper, who was also the manager of the state-owned enterprise, was hired to clean the house. But this nanny didn't clean the house properly, so Mr. Yi Cheetah thought that this nanny bought the house and made it his. Once he became the owner of the house, the nanny would clean the house diligently. Isn't this nonsense?" Everyone was stunned. This Grandmaster Jiang wasn't a boorish fellow, and he seemed to know a little. "Mr. Jiang, I admit that you have a very intuitive judgment of economic theory, but it is only a very superficial judgment." Yi Cheetah was slightly taken aback. Then he said with a mocking expression, "The nanny bought this house, but paid for it. It's equivalent to a state-owned asset in another way, in the form of cash. Only by withdrawing from a completely competitive industry can economic vitality be stimulated. This is the consensus of everyone." "Then there are two problems that need to be solved." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Who decided the price of this house? Where did the money for the nanny to buy the house come from? According to common sense, the price of the house should be decided by the owner of the house. At the very least, an appraisal company should be hired to give a fair and just evaluation. The money to buy the house must be from the nanny. If the money isn't enough, it should be borrowed from the outside for financing. But as far as I know, the management of many state-owned enterprises, the appraisal and pricing of the company's assets are decided by the management. The source of the funds are all from the state-owned enterprises' accounts, or they use the state-owned enterprises under their control as collateral for financing. This is completely putting the left pocket into the right pocket. It's like trying to gain something without risking anything. Mr. Yi, right now, the management of Huaxia's state-owned enterprises, MBOs, have caused the loss of state-owned assets. I think Mr. Yi should know better than me. If you don't know, let me tell you, for words, shocking. And why do you, Mr. Yi, still advocate such a deformed system? You should know better. For the country and the people? What a joke. Isn't it to fill your own pockets? When Jiang Tian said this, Yi Cheetah's face suddenly changed. He wanted to cover Jiang Tian's mouth. His hands trembled as he said, I admit that there are some problems in this, but the reform must be pushed forward. We can't give up eating for fear of choking. He wanted to stop this argument. But Jiang Tian still said, the acquisition of Huajin Group, one of the top 10 state-owned enterprises in Zhonghai, was controlled by the Yi family behind the scenes. A company with a real value of 12 billion, you only spent 300 million to get it, and you used the Social Security Fund. The Yi family is robbing money. I admire you. For a moment, everyone looked at the Yi family suspiciously. Their attitudes seemed to be shaken. They were also very curious as to how Jiang Tian knew all this. But Jiang Tian was too clear about this. In his previous life, in 2011, the Zhonghai Social Security Fund case and the Yi family's family-style corruption case broke out. Many of the Yi family's executives were arrested, and it shook the whole country. Due to the huge amount of money involved, the nature of the case was bad, and it was a classic example. It also caused a lot of controversy in the economic field. Some scholars said, this is a Hua-Xia-style MBO filled with flowers and traps. They even published a book on the case. The first case was the case of the management of Huajin Group being MBO at a low price. Wang Tianhe pointed at Jiang Tian and reprimanded, you didn't participate in the restructuring of this company, so what do you know about the inside story? It's complete nonsense. Just based on your words, I can sue you for slander. But after he said that, he felt that the threat was weak and powerless. Jiang Tian was not afraid to admit that he had killed someone or even killed an entire family. Why would he be afraid of this? The ignorant are fearless. You don't know anything, so you dare to say anything. Impudent brat. But he managed to pull everyone back from their shock. For a moment, everyone was scolding him. Wang Tianhe sneered, Jiang Tian, you are indeed a genius, but you should know that there is always someone better than you. I don't know why you dare to look down on the powerful families of Zhonghai. Grandmaster Jiang is not an ordinary person. He is a martial arts expert and a master of magic arts. He once cured Elder Tang of Lin Zhou's strange disease and can drink and chat merrily with Secretary Tang Weimin of Lingnan Yangqing, right? Yi Haochen looked at Jiang Tian with a half-smile. He was like a wise man. Old man Tang? Tang Guizhu? Tang Weimin's father? Everyone gasped in shock. They had never thought that Jiang Tian was so powerful. However, the shock only lasted for a second. Tang Weimin was working in Linzhou City, which was too far away from Zhonghai. Yi Weihao, on the other hand, was the mayor of Zhonghai. He would soon become the secretary of the government and become an important member of the government. How could the Tang family compare to him? Does he think he can do whatever he wants with the Tang family? When I meet Tang Weimin in the future, I will ask him if he can do whatever he wants. Yi Weihao finally opened his mouth and snorted. The Yi family was one of the top 3 families in Zhonghai. However, the Tang family had only risen to power in the last 2 years. If it was 3 years ago, even Tang Guizhu would have to be courteous to Yi Cheetah and call him old sir. He wasn't afraid of Tang Weimin or even Elder Tang, let alone Jiang Tian, a mere guest of the Tang clan. Suddenly, a middle-aged man with neatly combed hair walked out of the banquet hall with a glass of red wine in his hand. He smiled and said, Old man Yi, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Fan may be very busy, but he has been keeping a close eye on the free trade zone between Zhonghai and Singapore. That is why he sent me here to congratulate you on the smooth progress of the negotiations. Here is a toast to all of you. Isn't Director Liu working for Secretary Fan? Boss Fu's face darkened. He slapped his thigh and laughed. This time, Jiang Tian is not going to make a comeback. Master Kong is a powerful man, but I'm afraid he is not going to make it. Boss Zhang heaved a sigh and said regretfully. Everyone's face paled when they saw the newcomer. Even Mai Shilong and Han Yen started to worry about Jiang Tian. They had never thought that the Yi family would invite Director Liu, one of Secretary Fan's most trusted men, to the banquet. Now that Director Liu was on the Yi family's side, Secretary Fan's attitude was clear as day. The Wang family of Zhonghai had great influence in the judicial field of the Yangtze River Delta region. The Yi family had the backing of a governor and a leading economist. The Su family was one of the most powerful families in the Jin city military. With the support of Secretary Fan of Su province and He Junyi of Singapore, they could crush 10 Jiang families. Wang Tianhe, Su Yuhang, Yi Haochen, He Junyi, these people were all heavyweights. When they came over, Jiang Tian might be able to rely on his relationship with the Tang clan to resist them. However, as soon as Director Liu arrived, a heavy weight was immediately placed on the table. Even the Tang family was rendered useless. After all, the Tang family's influence was limited to Lingnan and could not reach the Su province. Tang Weiman was just the secretary of the provincial government. He was not even in the top 3 on the standing committee. Secretary Fan, on the other hand, was the highest-ranking official in the Su province. Furthermore, Secretary Fan was in charge of the Su province and his words carried weight. The Su province was his territory. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, he was just a commoner in the Su province. How could he withstand Secretary Fan's pressure? By then, the Tang family was useless, so Jiang Tian could only rely on himself to face the powerful families of Zhonghai. However, with his own strength, how could he make a comeback? Seeing that Director Liu had appeared on behalf of Secretary Fan, Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Secretary Fan had been transferred to the Su province in the past month. He did not even show up when Chao Shixiang visited the old man's birthday. He probably did not know about the Jiang family's background at all. Maybe he had some ties with the Yi family, so he decided to stand up for them. However, if he knew the true strength of Jiang Tian and the Jiang family, he would probably avoid them. Master Kong, aren't you very powerful? I wonder how you can turn the tables in this situation. Yi Haochen took a sip of red wine and said with a mocking smile, "I'm afraid you're at your wit's end now." Alas, Qing, if you didn't have Yi Haochen as a comparison, you would have become a phoenix after marrying Jiang Tian. However, compared to Yi Haochen, who is a real noble, your husband is far inferior. You should have held on to Boss Yi back then. Even if you missed him, you shouldn't have hit him. Your husband is fueling the conflict again. At this time, even Su Jie's mentality was shaken again, and a look of regret flashed in her eyes. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.